Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Wisconsin.
And we welcome you from Washington, D.C. I'm sure President Obama's got us on tonight. It's the Brewers and the Nationals from Nationals Park, Game 1 of 3 here over the weekend. And a newcomer to the Brewers, Domingo Santana, traded from the Astros to the Brewers in the Carlos Gomez-Mike Fiers deal. He is the first of that group of 4 to arrive in the big leagues. And hi, everybody, we welcome you from our nation's capital. Great to have you with us alongside Bill Schroeder. I'm Brian Anderson. Telly Hughes, our reporter here this evening. Well, the Brewers get the first wave of call-ups now. Domingo Santana, don't know what kind of player he's going to be. He comps out like a Corey Hart-type player, Craig Counsell says. Hopefully he can have similar numbers and a similar career. That would be something.
Well, if he has a game today like he had a batting practice, it's going to be pretty impressive. I mean, Domingo Santana, a couple of stints with the Houston Astros. One last year, he had 10 games this year with the Astros, and after the trade, down in the minor leagues, Colorado Springs, 20 games, a .380 batting average, and average almost an RBI per game. The kid is a very athletic young man. He can play the outfield tonight in center field. So the Brewers very anxious to see what they have in Domingo Santana. He's up here in the big leagues. Craig Counsell expects to play him quite a bit.
He's just 23 years of age, out of the Dominican Republic. Huge numbers in the minor leagues. Road trip starts in the nation's capital against the contending Nats. Lineups, first pitch, coming up next. Wisconsin tonight, presented by Potawatomi Hotel and Casino. Book your stay now. Ready to go here tonight. Gio Gonzalez on the mound for the Nationals. Gene Segura leads off, wasting no time. And a fly ball to right field to get us started this evening. There's Craig Counsell celebrating his 45th birthday today. Let's give you his Potawatomi starting lineup. Segura, you've met. Lucroy, then Braun, Adam Lynn, Chris Davis, and Domingo Santana. And the bottom three, Hernan Perez, Elian Herrera, and Jimmy Nelson. And that's the batting order that will face left-hander Gio Gonzalez. Nationals coming off a loss against the Colorado Rockies yesterday. They had a night game in Denver last night. Did not arrive here to D.C. until 6 a.m.
Wow.
So a quick turnaround for the Nationals, who are at 60-60. But they are contending in the National League East. They start play today 4 back. They have a very good pitching staff that has not lived up to expectations thus far.
And that's not the only thing. Other than Bryce Harper, there's been a lot of underperforming for this Nationals ball club. Gio Gonzalez, 4th season with the Nationals, got 51 wins since the beginning of the 2012 season. Making start number 5 against the Brewers. He's 2-0 and a .282 earned run average. So he's pitched very well against Milwaukee.
Brewers and the Nationals finishing up their season series this weekend. And Lucroy back up the middle, a base hit. So a 1-out single for Lucroy, first base runner of the night.
I'm going to check out the Menards Nationals defense. You got Jason Wood, Michael Taylor, good one out there in center field. Young kid, 6 assists out there. Bryce Harper, the MVP candidate, out in right field. You got Escobar, Desmond, Rendon, and Robinson from 3rd to 1st, and Jose Lobaton behind home plate.
No Ryan Zimmerman in the Nationals lineup tonight. Been bothered by a sore heel, and not something expected to be long term, but Matt Williams, the Nationals manager, wanting to get him off his feet here today. First game of this 3-game series. Here's Ryan Braun now, and Gonzalez misses low. Braun coming in with 22 homers, 72 runs batted in, also has 18 steals this year. First time around against the Nationals, had 4 hits. That was in a 4-game series. The Brewers split with Washington. Now Braun is the new franchise leader in home runs for a career. Had that home run off the facing of the Lowe's level in right field against the Miami Marlins. Career home run number 252 on the Powerball home run mark. And he stands alone now as the all-time home run leader in Brewers franchise history, past Robin Yount. So it goes Braun, Yount, and Fielder, top 3 home run hitters in franchise history.
And doing it like he's been doing it all season long in the right field, and hit it off his old teammate, Chris Narveson.
Now the Brewers dropped 2 out of 3 to the Marlins after they swept the Phillies. So it ended up as a winning homestand for them. 4 wins, 2 losses. Brewers come in 18 games under at 52-70, and a lot of changes have been made. Much different ball club compared to what the Nationals saw last time around in Milwaukee. And this begins the new wave of prospects that we see promoted to the big leagues. Domingo Santana getting the start in center field tonight, and Craig Counsell says you can expect more of it over the next 6 weeks, 5.5 weeks, plus next season. Brewers are stockpiling their minor league system. And Braun cannot check his swing. Down he goes. That's a strikeout for Gonzalez.
And Clint Fagan over first base rings him up right away. And let's see if Ryan's able to hold up. Pretty good chance he does not. He doesn't. He goes, and that's a good call down at first base.
And Gonzalez has his first strikeout. 2 gone for Adam Lind. Lind putting together a nice year with the bat. 284 hitter, 17 homers, 67 runs batted in for Lind. Has an on base percentage of .364. And he pops up the first pitch. Foul territory. A lot of room over there. Escobar can't get there.
They're crashing into that padded railing over there along the foul territory in left field.
Clutching at his neck, right side of his head. Let's see if we can pick up what happened.
He goes in there pretty hard. He knows where he's at. They hit a fan.
Yeah, runs right into the fan. The fan goes down. He decleated the fan.
And the fan, he gets the fan. Not sure if he got him in the chin or the chest or something, but Escobar not feeling all that great.
Yeah, might have strained something in the neck, a little stinger perhaps. Fan's okay. He's up checking on Escobar. Matt Williams is out with the athletic trainer as they look at the neck.
Hey, went a long way for that baseball. Looked for a second that he knew where he was. Then he had to speed up a little bit. And goes right into the chest of the fan, knocks him over. They both go down. And now let's see if Escobar is going to be able to stay in the game.
Just a bit of an awkward collision there. Escobar is on his way over. I think he's going to be coming out of this game just by the way he's walking. Matt Williams alerting the home plate umpire Joe West, who's also the crew chief. So this day does not last long for Yunel Escobar.
You got a couple of guys that can go over there. You got Espinosa as an infielder and Trey Turner, their young shortstop. Let's see which one he goes to.
Washington just calling up one of their top prospects now. Trey Turner just came to Washington a couple of months ago from the San Diego Padres. This is his first day in the big leagues, and I'll be curious to see if they throw him right into the fire.
They probably put Rendon over at third base and put somebody at second, and Rendon might move from second to third.
And it will be Rendon to move over as Espinosa comes out. All right, so that will be the move. Rendon to third. Espinosa will play second. And we'll try to get you an update on Escobar when it becomes available. Count is 0-1 to Adam Lind. Nationals have dealt with a ton of injuries this season as Lind pops another one up over there, and Rendon will give that one a look in the seats.
And the only left-hander in the lineup, great counts today, Adam Lind, who's been swinging the bat pretty well against lefties lately. Didn't start out that way, but as of late, it's been pretty good against the left-handers.
Now Lind is playing pretty much every day as well against left-handed pitching. Every now and then Counsell will make a move, but he's proven that he can hit lefties, can be an everyday player once again. He was in a platoon for the last few years with the Blue Jays, and part of that was because of a bad back and the fact that he needed regular days off anyway. Might as well sit him with a left-hander on the mound. But he's been relatively healthy this year. No trips to the DL at this point. And he's putting up big numbers. You know, the games that he's playing, the at-bats that he's getting, the numbers are comparable. Second on the club in home runs. He's second on the team in RBIs, both trailing Ryan Braun in that category, and has the highest batting average among the regulars.
He's played in now 113 of the 123 games the Brewers have played this year.
Got an OPS over 840 this season as Lind, an excuse me swing, down he goes. A strikeout for Gio Gonzalez. Back-to-back Ks. Brewers strand a runner. Nationals are coming up, bottom of the first. And the Nationals coming up now against right-hander Jimmy Nelson. There's Matt Williams. He has been under fire here in Washington, D.C., trying to get this club back into the postseason. Here is the Potawatomi batting order turned in by Matt Williams. He's got Worth, Rendon, and Harper at the top. Now Danny Espinosa moves in for Yunel Escobar, hitting cleanup. Clint Robinson over at first with Ian Desmond at short. Jose Lobaton, Michael Taylor, and Gio Gonzalez round out the Washington batting order. Of course, the headliner in there is Bryce Harper. And Jimmy Nelson looking for a little redemption against the Nationals here tonight.
Yeah, they roughed him up back at Miller Park. A 7-2 loss, one of Jimmy's worst starts of the season. 25th appearance, a 99 record. He's been very good as of late. 6-1 in his last 10 starts. And has posted a .231 earned run average.
No decisions in his last 2 starts against the Cardinals and the Phillies. And Nelson facing Jason Worth in that leadoff spot. First pitch swinging, he fouls it back. Worth's been moved into that leadoff spot. This is his 4th game in that position. Washington won 2 of the first 3. That's a big lineup change for Matt Williams. Unsure where to put Worth. Even had him hitting as low as 7th at one point, and for a big money contract and one of your vocal leaders and experienced leaders on the club, I think he probably prefers the leadoff spot as opposed to hitting down in the bottom 3rd of the order.
Yeah, Matt Williams putting him up there. Try to get him going. Hitting 190. It's been hurt a lot.
A shoulder injury that required surgery last year through the offseason and the beginning of this season, and then he was hit by a pitch early in the season in San Diego and actually went on the 15-day DL and ultimately the 60-day disabled list. Well, he's been a clutch performer in the postseason in the past, and we'll see if the Nationals will have a chance to get him back in a postseason this season. Washington starts play today 4 games back of the New York Mets in the National League East. 2 balls, 2 strikes on Worth. And he popped him up. First chance for Domingo Santana as a center fielder. No problem, makes a play.
Yep, and an easy chance for him. Hey, let's check out the Menards Brewers defense. You got Davis, Santana, and Braun. Anxious to see how Santana is going to be able to cover center field. It's been Shane Peterson for the most part. He's done a nice job. Perez, Segura, Herrera, and Lynn from 3rd to 1st, and Jonathan Lucroy behind home plate.
Santana did play 1 game earlier this year with the Astros at the big league level in center field. 12 minor league games in center field. He is by no means a center fielder, said Craig Counsell. He's a corner outfielder with a great arm, but he does run well, and they want to see how he swings the bat and get him at bats. And right now, with Davis swinging the bat the way he is and Ryan Braun in right, center field's going to be it. And Santana working hard earlier today of a live batting practice, trying to acclimate to center field.
Yeah, trying to get the lay of the land in his big ballpark. 6'5", 230 plus pounds. Craig Counsell likens him to Corey Hart.
Yeah, long and rangy with a good arm. He's got big power, pole to pole power, they call it.
And really doesn't have much to prove down in the minor leagues.
Rendon pops this one into the seats.
His minor league numbers have been off the charts this year. 380 at Colorado Springs, well over 300 when he's in the minor leagues with the Astros.
He is one of 4 players that came to the Brewers from the Astros organization. 4 prospects. The Brewers were able to get 4 of the Astros top 21 prospects, and Santana was rated number 7. He instantly goes into the number 4 prospect for the Brewers according to MLB.com. The top Astros prospect in that trade was Brett Phillips. He's in Double-A Biloxi. He is a center fielder and a very good center fielder, and Brewers are hoping he is the center fielder of the future. Ground ball to short, wicked hop for Segura, gloves it and takes care of Rendon for out number 2.
Well, nice reactions that time. That ball took a funny hop on the second bounce. Segura ready for it, had to bring the glove up and able to get the out easily at first base.
So 2 up, 2 down. And here is Bryce Harper. What a year he is having. MVP caliber season this season. .330 batting average. He's already hit 30, the first National Leaguer to get to 30. 73 runs batted in as well. And he shows bunt with the shift on. Trying to push a bunt down the third base line. Strike 1.
And the Brewers let him do that all day. At least he keeps it in the ballpark.
Look where he ranks in the National League coming into play here today. Second in batting average. He leads the league in homers and runs, on base and slugging, of course OPS, and OPS over 1,000. Only Deke Gordon has a higher batting average than Bryce Harper. Gordon's hitting .336, Harper at .330. And Paul Goldschmidt with 89 runs batted in leads the league in that category. Harper has 73. And it looks like a 2-horse race for the MVP between Harper and Goldschmidt.
Yeah, incredibly quick hands. He stands on top of home plate as well. We've seen a number of guys do that in games the Brewers have played recently. Anthony Rizzo comes to mind, but he just dares you to come inside. He has the ability to pull those hands in and drive that ball to right. Keep it fair.
Nelson's got him in a 1-2 count. Tried to get him to chase one. Jimmy with good velocity out of the gates tonight. Nice night. Nice and warm here in D.C. Easy to get loose.
Just the way Jimmy likes it. He's about as quick to sweat as anybody on the field.
Rivals only Bill Schroeder.
I can relate. I can relate, and I'm not doing anything.
Here's a 2-2, and Harper on the ground. The shift is on, and that'll be easy for Herrera. 1-2-3 start for Jimmy Nelson. We're the nation's capital tonight. Thanks for being with us. We head to the second. Wisconsin, we head to the second inning, and the Brewers are coming up. Had a hit in the first, Jonathan Lucroy. How about our lows never stop improving? That would be Chris Davis, and why not? This guy's on a roll here lately. You take his numbers in the month of August. Nobody's hit more home runs than Davis. Nobody's had more runs batted in. 7 homers, 19 RBIs. He's had 3 multi-homer games in the month of August, 4 overall this season. And he comes in with 14 home runs and 41 driven in. Showing big pop here lately, and he helped the Brewers get right back in the game on Wednesday. Down 5-2, he hit a 3-run home run. That was after he hit a 2-run home run the inning prior. Brewers had a nice comeback win on Wednesday.
Yeah, he got 4 multi-home run games this season, and really taking advantage of the playing time that the Brewers have given him since the big trades.
And Davis on the ground, ranging over is Desmond. And there's out number 1.
Yeah, Gio Gonzalez gets a lot of ground ball outs. He's only given up 5 home runs this year. Only 5. That's tied for the fewest in the National League with Tyson Ross of the San Diego Padres. That's not bad. 5 home runs allowed in 22 starts. Doesn't throw hard. He'll sink the fastball. He's got a very good changeup that he likes to use against right-handed hitters, and he'll throw that curveball at any time.
First ball swinging right to Espinosa at second base. And Domingo Santana's Brewers debut at the plate doesn't last very long. Domingo, you got to take a few pitches so he can say nice things about you.
He broke his bat too.
2 quick outs here for Gio Gonzalez. Well, those are the numbers there. Tyson Ross's brother is part of the national staff here. Joe Ross keeps the ball in the ballpark typically, and he's been good for the Nationals. Been a lot better with Lobaton as his personal catcher. Managers don't like doing that. They don't like having one guy that catches every time. Perez sends one deep into right center. That's got some carry, and it's off the wall. Hernan Perez swinging at the first pitch. He ends up at second base with a double.
Yeah, you got to figure that's got to be the approach and the plan against Gonzalez, because he tries to get strike one. And with pitchers like Gonzalez, guys that have a lot of success, don't walk batters, that first strike, normally the best one that you're going to get to hit. Now you can see Taylor playing shallow out there in center, not able to catch up to it. And a 2-out double for Hernan Perez.
That was on the second pitch of the at-bat.
Got to be aggressive against Gio Gonzalez. Can't be waiting around.
Feels like a bit of a jet stream into right center. Perez hit that ball well, but that ball jumped into the alley. So a 2-out double for Perez. And here is the switch hitter, Elian Herrera, getting the start at second base tonight. Essentially working in a platoon with Scooter Gennett at this point.
Man, Herrera's been swinging the bat much better. He's put some little bit of charge into the baseball, getting some extra base hits. Always nice to be able to get something going at the bottom of the order.
You give him a lot of credit. He was taken off the major league roster, and instead of declaring free agency, which was in his rights, he decided he wanted to stay in the Brewers system and go back into the minor leagues, thinking he might have a chance to play his way back to the big leagues, and that's exactly what happened. So smart that Herrera understood the game bigger than what was going on immediately with him and the major league roster, thinking, well, the Brewers are probably going to be trading some pieces, and there's a chance he could get added to the roster. He had other opportunities. Doesn't happen very often where a player gets taken off of a major league roster and then goes to the minor leagues and ends up forcing the organization to put him back on the roster because he's playing so well.
I mean, that's probably why he did stick around. Figured his opportunity to get back to the big leagues was the best at this point with Milwaukee, given all that's been going on this year. And it paid off.
1-2 Herrera. Little flare into shallow right, and there to make the play is Espinosa to end the inning. 2 scoreless in the books for Gio Gonzalez. brought to you by Menards. Save big money at Menards on all your home improvement needs. By Toyota. See where Toyota takes you. Test drive one at your Toyota dealers. Toyota, let's go places. And by Miller Lite, the original light Pilsner. Cheers. It's Miller time. Start of a road trip in Washington, D.C. Nationals Park, the home of the Nationals. Brewers are going to be headed to Cleveland after this weekend series, after a day off Monday. 2 games in Cleveland before returning home to start a series on Friday night. Danny Espinosa will lead off. He is forced into the cleanup spot in the batting order. Nationals lost their cleanup hitter and their third baseman in the first inning. Yunel Escobar looked like a neck injury. And still awaiting word from the Nationals on that injury, but that puts Espinosa in the 4th spot in the batting order. And I'm sure the way Matt Williams lined it out, Rock, this is not exactly what he had in mind.
You know, he's got some options on that bench. He does have 12 home runs, hitting around 250. I think the last time the Brewers saw Espinosa, he had that big mustache.
That Yosemite Sam mustache, right?
One of the best mustaches you're ever going to see. Full mustache. There it is, up on the scoreboard. They haven't updated the scoreboard here.
That would even make Pete Vukovich jealous.
Man, that's a commitment.
Jimmy Nelson's got him down 0-2. Just threw him a good slider. See what he has in mind here. That is a fastball high. Well, Espinosa's got some company in his middle infield / utility ranks with the addition of Trey Turner to the roster. Young kid will be making his major league debut when he does enter a game. And a fastball right by him. Espinosa swing and a miss. A strikeout for Jimmy Nelson. That is his first.
Hey, it's a weekend showdown between division rivals as the Brewers square off against Todd Frazier and the Cincinnati Reds next Friday, August 28th through Sunday the 30th. Reserve your spot at Miller Park. Call 414-902-4000 or go to brewers.com/tickets.
It's good to see a good crowd here at this ballpark. They're hoping their Nationals can take advantage of this homestand. Clint Robinson getting the call at first base tonight. No Ryan Zimmerman in the lineup. Robinson's been sharing a little time at first base. Washington put Tyler Moore on the disabled list, so that clears a little bit of room for Robinson as well. Washington is hoping this is go time right now. They are starting a 9-game 10-day homestand against the Brewers, the Padres, and the Marlins. They have a very home friendly schedule the rest of the way. More than half of their games, or more than doubled up their games, I should say, against our home games against non-contenders. They were a great home team up until the 4th of July. 10 games over 500, but they are 2 under since that time. And with the shift on, Robinson out to Herrera. A couple of times the shift has paid off for Nelson. 2 up and 2 down here in the second inning.
Yeah, the Nationals have been battling injuries throughout the entire season, but starting to get back to healthy. And Jason Worth is back, and Matt Williams trying to figure out what's going on with his ball club. I mean, underperforming is a word that they've been using around here. I think that's an understatement. This is a team that I would imagine is expected to do a lot more than what they've done. 500 record, unacceptable with this group.
A big swing and a miss by Desmond. Well, you look at the Nationals' remaining schedule, make of it what you will, but they have 13 series remaining. All right, only 4 of those series, 4 series will be against contending teams. And so they feel like that their schedule finally turns in their favor, but it can be dangerous. We see it year in, year out, Rock. You start looking at the schedule, teams under 500, especially when you're home against teams under 500, there is an added layer of pressure. And then you get into September, when you have September call-ups and you don't know a lot about those particular players. So it's not as easy as other sports. Baseball's probably the toughest to match up as far as contending teams versus non-contending teams.
Especially in September. I mean, with the expanded rosters, I mean, teams can play a little bit differently than they have throughout the year. Well, the Nationals have 2 series left against the Mets. 6 games left.
Yeah, they'll have the Mets in early September, and then the last 3 games of the year will be at Citi Field against the Mets. And right now they're 4 back of the New York Mets. 2-2 to Desmond. Able to lay off. Full count.
This is a guy who got off to a horrendous start. I'm not sure why, not just at the plate, but in the field. He's got 23 errors this year, but starting to swing the bat much better. Starting to hit some home runs, starting to get that average a little bit up.
Well, they need him. He's an all-star caliber shortstop. He's made a lot of errors as well this year at the shortstop position. 3-2 pitch. Fouls it away. We saw Desmond in Milwaukee, and it was just a chore to get a ball in play for Desmond.
Struck out a lot, didn't he?
I think he struck out 9 times in that series. Had a 4 strikeout game in one of the games in the series. Payoff pitch, and a breaking ball misses inside. First blemish for Jimmy Nelson. That's a 2-out walk.
Yeah, Jimmy's having a difficult time getting that curveball slider combination over the plate. Relying primarily early in the game here with the fastball. That's going to have to change. You mentioned that Jimmy has had consecutive no decisions, but the Brewers have won both of those. The Brewers continue to win with Jimmy Nelson on the mound.
So here is Jose Lobaton, who is a switch hitter. There goes Desmond, and off his knees. Lucroy's throw is late. So a stolen base. The Brewer pitchers have really struggled this year holding runners and keeping runners close. And there are a lot of early stolen bases for the opposition. Not a whole lot Lucroy can do.
Yeah, right from his knees makes a nice throw. Stolen base number 11 for Ian Desmond. And Segura holding the tag just in case he goes off the bag.
And that's something he did not do against the Marlins on Wednesday. So a lesson learned, hopefully. 11 steals. He puts himself into scoring position for the backup catcher, Lobaton. Lobaton, a former Tampa Bay Ray, hit a pretty famous home run in Rays history, a walk-off home run in a postseason game against the Boston Red Sox 2 years ago. And it was a perfect Tampa Bay Rays moment there in St. Pete. Off Koji Uehara, extra inning, walk-off home run, and he landed it in the Rays tank, in there with an actual Stingray. I guess if you're going to be a personal catcher and you're going to come around every 5th day, it helps to be a switch hitter. Doesn't really affect the matchups for Matt Williams. A little broken bat, and that's going to fall for a base hit. And the stolen base is going to turn into a run for the Nationals. Lobaton breaks his bat, and an RBI single to give Washington the early lead.
Yep, on a 1-2 pitch, and Lobaton able to just protecting the plate, putting the bat on the baseball, dumps it just out of the reach of Segura. It's short. Well, just kind of a slice job out over the head of Segura, got jammed down on the handle. And Desmond able to come around to score. So the walk, stolen base comes around to plate the first run.
And the first hit of the ball game for Washington is an RBI. And Nelson now with 2 outs, runner at first for Michael Taylor.
Backup catchers always get the game right after a 6 a.m. arrival. Those are the ones you get normally.
And it works out perfectly with Gio Gonzalez on the mound today.
Life of a backup.
Michael Taylor was in the headlines last night. He hit the longest home run of the season in Major League Baseball, according to StatCast. That was in a 3-2 loss to the Colorado Rockies. At the time, it was 2-0 Colorado. And Taylor hit a 2-run home run. Rocket went 493 feet.
Yeah, saw it. Amazing.
Deep left center field. 3/4 of the way up the bleachers, more into center field than left field. And they're still talking about that one today. He's talking to the Nationals broadcasters, FP Santangelo and Bob Carpenter. Neither has seen anybody hit one that far at Coors Field. 493 feet.
Well, if you're going to hit one that far, Coors Field is probably the place to do it.
Yeah.
But still, I don't think Coors Field had much of an effect on it, the way that ball took off.
Well, he's got big power. He's playing a lot these days. Denard Span is out. He's got sports hernia. He's got back problems. So Taylor's been starting the last 60 or so games. And he is putting himself in a little bit of the Rookie of the Year discussion as he swings and misses. Down he goes on strikes. Nelson with his second K. A 2-out walk turns into an RBI single for Lobaton. 1-0. Is brought to you by Marshfield Clinic. Don't just live, shine. By Piggly Wiggly, the official supermarket of Fox Sports Wisconsin. And by Hupy and Abraham. 800-800-5678. Hupy and Abraham. Tell them you mean business. Beautiful Friday night in our nation's capital. Nationals have the lead 1-0 on a Jose Lobaton single with 2 outs. A walk and a single, a walk, stolen base, and a single. And the Nats have a 1-0 lead. We go to the 3rd inning. Jimmy Nelson will lead off for the Crew, and then back to the top of the order with Segura and Lucroy. Gio Gonzalez back to work, his 3rd inning. Well, Nelson, as a hitter this season, has 5 hits. He's 5 for 48 on the year. Does have a couple of RBIs. And Gonzalez falling behind him, 2-1. Nationals are going to roll out Joe Ross tomorrow, a right-hander, and then Jordan Zimmermann will get the ball Sunday afternoon. Matt Garza against Jordan Zimmermann on Sunday. Tomorrow is Youngman against Joe Ross. And then the Brewers will have an off day before they go to Cleveland for 2 games, Tuesday and Wednesday. As Nelson strikes out. Got a piece, but right into the middle of the catcher.
No fastballs getting Jimmy that time. Hey, tonight's time of the game winner, the Gin Mill in Tomahawk. Doesn't get much easier than that. The Gin Mill. If they call the Brewers in the next 24 hours, they get 40 Miller Lite beer pen tickets to a Brewers home game. This offer courtesy of the Tavern League of Wisconsin and Miller Lite.
There's a strike to Segura. Back second time around the order now. Segura flew out to right on the first pitch he saw in the first inning. And a big swing and a miss. 0-2 the count.
Big curveball. Able to keep it down.
Gonzalez keeps his walks down. He averages a little over 3 walks per game. He's given up a lot of hits this year, more than at any other point in his career, at least since 2010. He's given up more than a hit per inning pitched. Segura on the ground, cutting it off is Rondon, in and out of his glove. And Segura will reach. That would have been a tough play for him, even if he comes up with it cleanly. With Segura's speed.
Yeah, that could be a base hit. Man, we'll see how they score it. Nationals defense, yeah, they're down in the bottom third of the National League in team defense. That one right off the end of the glove. I bet that's a hit.
Well, Rendon moved over to third from second after Escobar was injured. That'll be a base hit. Scored by the official score as a single for Segura.
Right off the end of the fingers of the glove. Never really had it. Rendon will tell you should have made the play, but well, when you know who's running and the guy runs so hard like Segura, you got to be quick. That's why he missed it.
Cut and a miss from Lucroy. No balls and a strike. Jonathan Lucroy greeting a number of military members before the games. Very connected to a lot of military charities. And had a big group of military personnel on the field before the game. Lucroy's always eager and anxious to go shake hands and get to know folks that are here in Washington, D.C.
There's a place to see them.
Yeah, remember Lucroy had the Stars and Stripes catcher's equipment. And so he sent out a tweet earlier today that the 4th of July gear is now up for sale. The proceeds will go to the Honor Flight and Camp Hometown. It's going to split between the two. So right now you can go on the Honor Flight, SS Honor Flight Facebook page, and you can make a bid on the equipment. So this was the tweet. That's the gear that's available, and Lucroy doing his best on social media to help out Honor Flight Milwaukee. Their Twitter handle is @SS Honor Flight, but the bidding happens on Facebook right now. Segura on the run. That's into center field. Lobaton's throw was too high. Segura in there safe with a stolen base, and that'll give Lucroy an RBI chance.
Yeah, good job with the jump for Gene Segura. Gio Gonzalez holds runners pretty well. That high leg kick. Segura more worried about holding the bag. He didn't really know where the throw was. He was able to keep the hand on the bag, and not sure he would have been able to make it into third base anyway. And now he realizes it's in center field.
Stolen base number 20 for Segura, and gives Lucroy a chance to tie this game up. Lucroy had a single his last time up. And hits that one hard into left field. Worth can't get it. It's over his head. Segura around third will score easily as Lucroy rolls into second. It's an RBI double, and the Brewers have tied it at 1.
Lucroy hit that one right on the nose, but it should have been caught. It was misjudged by Worth out there. I mentioned he's been hurt most of the season. Not a very good play out there in left field, and Jonathan Lucroy gets credited with a double. Now he realized he's got to go back over his head. If he goes back right away, it's an easy catch. And there's that defense again. It's going to go down as a double, not an error. That's two plays that probably should have been made in this inning that were not made. Brewers tie it up.
Now Worth moving over to left field this season. Remember, he's been a long-time right fielder, and he's had his struggles in left this year. They wanted to have Bryce Harper play right field every day. Been that kind of year for Jason Worth. Brewers tie it up. Here's Braun now, and the pitch skips away from Lobaton. He can't find it. Lucroy ends up at third base.
Man, defense, where is it? Gil Gonzalez upset. I'm not sure what he's upset about. It's a pass ball, I think, on Lobaton. And he's expecting something else. He's expecting an off-speed pitch, and Lobaton not able to keep it close. He's expecting a breaking ball.
Yeah.
Gives him a fastball, and it handcuffs him. And now a team meeting out on the mound for everybody to calm themselves down a little bit. This has not been a very good inning for the Nationals.
And Matt Williams trying all he can do to help jumpstart this ball club after a long road trip. Nats did not play well on the road trip. Fortunate the Mets hit a bit of a slide as well. New York got swept by the Pirates last weekend. And I wonder what Craig Counsell is checking here. Let's see. He's asking Joe West, the crew chief, to give him a time to look at a replay. I'm not sure what that would have been about.
Well, Lobaton go down with his mask and scoop the ball in the mask and the glove. If that was the case, that's three bases.
That's a good call. He did not. And Braun in the air right field. Harper backs up. Lucroy's going to tag. Harper guns it all the way in. Lucroy is safe.
Man, how about that?
Harper made a great throw, but Lucroy able to beat it. And the Brewers take a 2-1 lead. That was a jaw-dropping throw from right field.
And the fans like the effort, too, from Bryce Harper. Not just a hitter, is he? He gets his momentum going toward home plate. I mean, it's just a prayer, you would think. Look how close he makes it. If that throws right on the money, he gets him, but that's a lot to ask out that far.
It gives you a look at one of the great tools that he has, Bryce Harper. He's got it all. And a great throwing arm is up there among the best in baseball. So 2 men are out now. Braun gets an RBI with the sac fly to give the Brewers a 2-1 lead. Here's Adam Lind with the bases empty. Lind, a big swing and a miss at a breaking ball. Powerball home run leaderboard right now. Lind second on the club. Davis is gaining on him. Braun leads the club with 22 home runs, and Ryan inside the top 10 in the league in that category. 2 runs in for the Brew Crew here in the third inning. RBIs from Lucroy and Braun.
Want to clean up what we were saying about using the mask to scoop the glove. In a live ball, if a catcher scoops the mask or touches the ball, a live ball with his equipment, it's one base from where the runner was when the catcher used the mask to touch the baseball. Not 3 bases, it's 1 base.
as Lynn draws the walk. So if you're Craig Counsell and you're looking at that scenario, this is good. We can learn a little bit here. If Lucroy has made it to third base and then the catcher scoops up the ball nonchalantly, not knowing the rule with his mask, then he scores.
Right.
So that's probably a good guess on what they were looking at. I can't imagine any other scenario that you'd look, because it all worked in the Brewers' favor there on the cross up.
Yep, pass ball. Now let's watch Lobaton. What does he do? Let's see how he just picks it up with the glove. No big deal. That's not even close. Must have been looking at something else. I'm not sure what.
Chris Davis in a 1-1 count. He's got Lind at first base. Brewers having a good inning here, second time through the batting order. 2 hits, a walk, and a sac fly. And the 25th pitch of the inning is a swing and a miss by Davis.
And that's a top velocity for Gio Gonzalez right there, 94.
And it got him back to the fastball. Davis strikes out. The inning is over. 4 Ks for Gonzalez, but the Brewers get 2 runs in. Segura started it with an infield hit, then a stolen base. Lucroy drives him in with a double, and after a wild pitch, Braun with a sacrifice fly. 2-1 Brew Crew.
To take a 2-1 lead over the Nationals, and Domingo Santana, who got the start here in center field, is making his Brewers debut. Now keep in mind, Santana came over in the Carlos Gomez Michael Fiers trade, and in 20 games down in Colorado Springs, Mr. Santana hit .380, and he began the season in AAA Fresno in the Houston Astros organization and had 16 home runs in 75 games there. So he has shown some power. Craig Counsell said that he has earned this opportunity to come up to the big leagues, and he's a natural corner outfielder, but he said he'll see some time at center field because of the fact that the corner outfielders are swinging a really good bat right now in Ryan Braun and Chris Davis. So he said he'll get his opportunities in center field right now. It won't be every day. Shane Peterson still will get some time in center field, but we'll see what Domingo Santana can do now that he's a Brewer. B.A.
All right, Telly, thanks. And Rock, it is interesting. Craig Counsell made a point before the game about Santana, saying he's done all he can do at AAA.
No doubt.
He's developed. He's ready to be a big leaguer. We don't necessarily have a position for him right now, but he's athletic enough to handle center field. Let's get him some at-bats. Let's see what he can do.
Same thing with Shane Peterson, right? He's not a center fielder either, but he's done pretty well out there.
You got Peterson, a left-handed hitter. Santana's a right-handed batter. Inning starts here with Gio Gonzalez, the Nationals pitcher, in a 2-2 count. 2-1 our score. The Brewers just took the lead in the top of this inning. Nat scored in the bottom of the second. Brewers with 2 in the top of the third. RBIs from Lucroy and Braun. And a ground ball right to Perez. 4 out, number 1.
Hey, a week from tonight, the Brewers will play host to the division rival Cincinnati Reds, and all fans at Miller Park will receive a free Brewers t-shirt courtesy of a Rise Health Plan. To reserve your spot at the final Free Shirt Friday of 2015, go to Brewers.com. That's your favorite, right?
Free Shirt Friday. That's my favorite shirt so far. Brewers are trying to catch the Reds. Just a half game behind Cincinnati. Not that moving from 5th to 4th is parade worthy, but if you can get out of the cellar, then get out of it. Brewers would love nothing more than to catch Cincinnati. Reds have lost 6 consecutive games, taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks tonight. Down 2-0 early in that one. Full schedule of games. Got a good one. Good showdown matchup in Pittsburgh tonight with the Pirates and the Giants. We'll be keeping track of the Giants-Pirates game and a lot of other matchups with contending teams. The Dodgers are in Houston tonight. Matchup with 2 first-place teams. And Mike Fiers is on the mound for the Astros tonight. Jason Worth.
Ronnie can't see
Nobody sees it, and that ball falls, and Worth, not running, ends up at first base. Well, you could tell right away Santana and Braun never saw the baseball. It is that dusk time of night, and the sun sets behind the third base grandstand, and Braun never saw the ball.
And Jason Worth, he's smiling right now, but he shouldn't be. He should be at second base. And right there, you can tell right away Herrera is pointing at it, but that's no help. Braun's looking up in the air helplessly, and Brewers get a break. Jason Worth just kind of taking a mosey trip down to first base, not hustling at all, and he stays at first. That's a break. Well, you got to do better than that if you're trying to get into the postseason, right?
Well, those are the kind of plays, though, that they're just maddening. And a team that's already been talked about as a team that makes a lot of mental mistakes. They're a poor defensive team. They're supposed to be one of the best teams in the big leagues. If you look at their roster, and you and I talked about this in spring training, the Washington Nationals, I thought they were going to have the best record in the National League if you had to place who was going to be a World Series contending team. Picking up Max Scherzer in the offseason. Very talented pitching staff, a lot of weapons offensively, and things just have not gone well for him this year. And it's plays like that that just leave a bad taste.
Especially when you're supposed to be one of the leaders of the ball club. I mean, young kids and everybody looking to you to watch the way you play. Can't do that.
Worth, longtime Philly, signed a big contract with the Washington Nationals. That Philadelphia club just continues to be dismantled. The team that won the World Series in 08. Chase Utley traded to the Dodgers. That's another piece that is gone from that organization. Worth was one of the first of the big names that left the organization to sign a deal with the Nationals. Two balls and a strike. Rendon in the air, right field, slicing into the seats.
see if Jimmy can take advantage of Jason Worth just staying at first base, get your ground ball, get out of this inning. Keeps a double play in order. Takes a man out of scoring position.
Two balls, two strikes. And there goes Worth, and the pitch is outside. Throw to second is on the money in time for the out. So Lucroy finally gets some help from his starting pitcher, and he makes a perfect throw to the bag for a caught stealing.
Yeah, both of his throws have been right on the money. Jason Worth trying to make up for bad base running, and makes matters worse, gets thrown out at second base. Yeah, they got him.
And 2 men are out. The pitch was a little down and out. And the count is 3-2 to Anthony Rendon. And he rips one into center field. Back on it, Santana playing deep. No problem. And the inning is over. So a single got lost in the lights of the setting sun ends up as a 3-batter inning anyway. Top of the fourth, and how about it? We take a look at the Giants and the Pirates, a game break, and Madison Bumgarner has done it again. His 5th home run of the season. Our Columbia St. Mary's Worth another look. Bumgarner and the Giants lead Jeff Locke and the Pirates in Pittsburgh 5-2, top of the 3rd inning. They used Bumgarner against the Cardinals as a pinch hitter last out of the game. And that was 2 days ago, and he hits a home run here tonight. There's a little cue shot by Santana. So he goes much deeper in the count the second time around. 2 pitches into the count this time around.
Yeah. Little changeup from Gonzalez had him out in front.
He's seen exactly 3 pitches.
It's about the time of the season where the Giants start to stick it into overdrive, isn't it?
You know, they got shut out last night 4-0 by the Pirates. They made a deal acquiring Marlon Byrd yesterday. Well, he's in the lineup tonight. Byrd from the Reds to the Giants, and Byrd hit a 2-run home run tonight, his 20th home run of the season. So Byrd and Bumgarner with home runs. The depleted outfield of the Giants getting a little help. Had to put Hunter Pence back on the disabled list. Pagan's on the DL. 1 ball, 1 strike. Perez gets sawed off as he fouls it away. Hernan had a double into right center his last time up. Brewers have 4 hits off Gonzalez, lead 2-1. And a curveball back up the middle. Ranging over is Desmond. Bare hand throw in time. Man, what a play that was. Ian Desmond.
Well, it doesn't get much better than that. I think Gonzalez gets a piece of this and slows it down a little bit. Knocks it up into the air. That's about as tough a play as you can see for a shortstop behind second base on the bare hand. He gets it beautifully in the bare hand and gets off a strong throw. Well, he's turned things around. Ian Desmond.
He's having a very bad year defensively with 23 errors, but that's as good of a play as you can have from the shortstop position. 1-6-3 on the putout. Gonzalez did touch that baseball. Here's Herrera with 2 away. Two balls, no strikes on Elian. Popped up to second base his first time up. Good pitchers park here. Very good pitchers here for the Nationals, and a lot of ground to cover in the outfield. But the Nationals have not been a good defensive team this year, and that's hurt them. You allow extra base runners as Herrera draws a 2-out walk.
And it's not just the errors, as we've seen. We saw last inning. You know, plays that should be made that are not, that are ruled hits.
It just still feels like the Nationals are going to kick it into gear. They have enough talent to rip off a bunch of wins in a row and have a winning stretch that would get them back into the race. I don't think anybody's giving up on the Nationals outside of DC. There's Nelson, slow roller. That's going to be gloved and bobbled by Espinoza. Had it in the glove briefly. If he comes up with it cleanly, he's got a chance to get the slow running Nelson, but instead that'll be an infield hit. And back-to-back base runners with 2 outs in the 4th inning.
And the top of the order coming up. You can see Espinoza shaded up the middle, just not able to get it out of the glove and into the throwing hand. He might have had a shot at Jimmy. And the Brewers, with a walk and now an infield hit with the top of the order coming in, have a chance to extend their lead.
That is the epitome of a seeing eye single. That might have had 10 or 12 hops on it. Jimmy will take it, his 5th hit of the year, and now Segura with 2 men on, taking a huge cut. And a long pause. Segura asked for and is granted timeout.
And that Joe West, the home plate umpire tonight. Country Joe West.
And a strike for Gonzalez. 0-2 the count on Segura.
Pretty good pitch to hit on 0-2 right there. A mistake. Look at Lobaton wanted up around the letters, and Gonzalez gave him one very hittable on an 0-2 count.
Oh, and 2 to Segura. Got Herrera and Nelson on the bases. And a curveball swung on, missed. Down he goes. Brewers strand 2. Segura strikes out. Bottom of the 4th coming. Milwaukee 2, Washington 1. To you by Miller Lite, the original light Pilsner. Cheers, it's Miller time. And by the Wisconsin Lottery, reminding you to please play responsibly. All the racing presidents here in D.C. and choreographed dancing presidents. They've added one. Calvin Coolidge is now part of the group, by the way. We'll have a Can You Name the Presidents a little bit later in the broadcast. Don't forget Sunday, 2 of the UFC's hottest rising stars face off. Elite featherweight destroyer Max Holloway takes on dangerous double threat Charles Oliveira. Plus a welterweight showdown between Neil Magny and Eric Silva. Catch UFC Fight Night Sunday, 5:30 Central, only on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. It'll be Bryce Harper to lead off for the Nationals. Harper, Espinoza, Clint Robinson coming up against Jimmy Nelson. 2-1 Brewers took the lead with 2 runs in the third, answering a national scoring inning in the second. 2-out RBI by the catcher Lobaton. Drove in Ian Desmond, who had walked and stole a base. Shift is on for Harper. Second at bat for him. He bounced into that shift his first time up. Would have been a hit without the shift. And Nelson's in there with a strike. How about our Carsoup.com trivia tonight? Who are the 2 players in Expos Nationals history to win a batting title?
Nice. Good one.
Expos became the Nationals prior to the 2005 season. Used to play it over at RFK, and then they opened up this beautiful venue.
Third team for the city or District of Columbia.
Ted Williams managed a Senators team here in Washington. Yep, 2005 to 15 there. 10 years here in D.C. The return of Major League Baseball here. Senators, the original Senators became the Twins, and then ultimately the Rangers, and then the Expos came back, and now they're talking about Montreal as a future major league city. That could happen.
It's a good town.
1-2 pitch. Harper might have chased one.
Did you ever get to Montreal?
Never been there. That was before my time in the big leagues. Yeah, Montreal's got a lot of support now to get a relocated team. I think the team that comes up a lot is the Tampa Bay Rays, just because of their ballpark situation. Tough to relocate teams.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Here's a 1-2 pitch. Harper fouls it away.
And one of the problems the Montreal Expos had was their stadium, Olympic Stadium.
Gary Carter, the great Gary Carter. Andre Dawson, the Hawk, part of the great franchise history. What could have been for the Expos if not the strike year, 94. A lot of foul balls here. Harper against Jimmy Nelson. See that pitch tracks all around the zone, and that one's ripped foul. A shot into the second level foul territory.
Yeah, 7 pitches, and it's still a 1-2 count.
Now, when Harper's hot, there aren't any holes to exploit. You're hoping you catch him in a cold streak. He hasn't had too many of those this year. Putting together an MVP type season this season.
And he can hit pitches out of the strike zone hard. That's how good he's been swinging it.
Pitch number 8 of the at bat, and he doesn't chase the fastball. 2-2 now. Not a bad idea by Nelson. Just to see. And now it's 3-2. Pitch number 10 of the at-bat. Full count to Harper. And he got him. 96-mile-an-hour fastball right down at the knees.
Yeah, had some good movement on it. Two-seamer for Jimmy. A long battle and finally able to get Bryce Harper. That's a perfect pitch. It might have been a called strike had Harper not swung at it, but that's about as good as you can do. Now Harper over the top of it and behind it. Had something behind that one. 96 miles an hour. Pitch number 10.
Well, I'll tell you, it's those kind of matchups and that kind of stuff that gives the Brewers great hope that Jimmy Nelson can emerge as a top of the rotation pitcher. He's got all the weapons, big and strong, great velocity that he can maintain throughout the game. And the new curveball this year has been a separator for him. It's given him that change of pace pitch. That's it right there, and he gets a strike.
Yeah, backdoors the outside corner on Espinoza.
And the count is 0-2.
Every now and again you'll see him, try to change up against a left-handed hitter.
Right down the heart. 96-mile-an-hour fastball, and down goes Espinoza. Back-to-back Ks for Jimmy Nelson gives him 4.
Wasn't looking for a fastball there, was he? Maybe looking for Jimmy to waste one. Probably thought he wasn't going to get a strike, and Jimmy able to catch the inner half of the plate.
Say, how about those 2 strikeout pitches by Jimmy Nelson?
Little comeback two-seamer right there to get Espinoza.
Down and away sinker on Harper and an inside sinker on Espinoza, working both sides of the plate.
It's been pretty good, hadn't he? Last 2 starts, not counting tonight.
2.31 ERA over his last 10. Back-to-back no decisions. Now the Brewers have great hope for their future on the mound. They've got a lot of big, strong, hard-throwing starting pitchers. Jorge Lopez is having a great year in Double-A Biloxi. Got Tyler Wagner, who we saw this year, more of a command-type pitcher. Zach Davies, whom the Brewers got from the Orioles. He's a command guy as well. So you put the hard throwers like Peralta and Jimmy Nelson in there. Taylor Youngman's got a good fastball, and then you have some very talented young pitchers that are coming up through the system. Try to put the pieces together as quick as you can. But you got to have somebody with experience at the top, and Garza's under contract for 2 more years after this one. Nelson and Peralta gathering important innings. 2-2 on the way. Robinson, little half swing, they'll ask, and he's able to check it.
Well, you combine that with a pretty good Brewers bullpen. K-Rod's coming back. You wonder how many of the Brewer relievers going to be back again next year. That's been a pretty good group, consistent group this year.
3-2 pitch. Try it again. Another payoff for Jimmy Nelson. And upstairs he goes. Robinson takes, and that's ball 4. 2-out walk. Robinson is aboard.
Yep, on the second walk for Jimmy. The only other walk in the second inning came around to score. That was Ian Desmond.
And Desmond has the kind of power that has your attention in a spot like this. 15 home runs on the year. Desmond walked, stole a base, scored a run with 2 outs in that second inning. The only Nationals run. Nelson's only given up 2 hits. Lobaton and Worth both with singles. Worth's single was lost in the setting sun or the lights, so a bit of a fluke hit there. And Lobaton's single was a broken bat flare into left center. Jimmy Nelson, for the most part, has been on his game tonight. But he does have the 2 out walks. He's hoping to not have this one hurt him this time around. And Desmond pulls one through the hole, a base hit. A walk and a single with 2 away.
Yeah, left the breaking ball up in the zone that time. Remember, talked about Desmond, been a much better hitter as of late. He's starting to come around with the bat. I saw him make a really good defensive play. And here comes Lobaton again with a man in scoring position.
Two on, 2 out. Lobaton with the RBI back in the second inning. Just his 14th RBI of the season. And now Lucroy's on his way out. Nelson rolling along here. 2 strikeouts to start the inning. That 10-pitch strikeout to Harper has made this a long inning for him.
And then a 7-pitch walk.
And had Robinson to 2 strikes with that walk. So the pitch count is taking a hit, but Nelson with 2 outs facing Lobaton to try to get through this 4th inning. 2 on, 2 away. That one's in there. Pitch number 25 of the inning for Nelson. Two and 1. Native of Venezuela, Jose Lobaton. The last piece to the roster in the offseason this year for general manager Mike Rizzo. And Nelson misses again. 3 balls and a strike. Suddenly Jimmy, maybe fighting a little bit of fatigue, has lost command a little bit.
Yeah, losing his mechanics just a little bit. These 2-seamers a little bit high, a little bit off the plate. Well, be careful here. Lobaton in a 3-1 count.
Hitters count, 2 men on. And Lobaton in the air, left center field, slicing over to Davis, and that is that. So a long inning for Nelson, but he puts up a 0. Brewers still lead 2-1 as we go to the 5th.
game. Brewers Community Foundation hosts a 50-50 raffle tickets, and tickets are sold for $2 each and are available for sale by Brewers event staff in bright orange t-shirts from the time gates open through the 4th inning. The winning number is announced during the middle of the 6th inning, just prior to the famous Racing Sausages game day race. 50% of the proceeds go to one lucky fan, and the remainder supports nonprofits focused on providing programming in the areas of health, education, recreation, and basic needs. Make sure you look for the bright orange shirts next time you're at Miller Park. Brian?
All right, Telly, thanks. Here's Jonathan Lucroy to start it. We head to the 5th inning at Nationals Park. 2-1 Brewers. At the plate, presented by Wendy's. Lucroy with a single in the first and an RBI double in the 3rd inning. Knocked it over the head of Jason Worth to score the first run. And then Lucroy scored on a sac fly. That ball's ripped off of Gonzalez. That got him flush. And Lucroy is at first, and we keep our eye on Gio Gonzalez. That really stung him. I didn't see exactly where it hit him, but you could tell right away.
It hit solid because it went, caromed right off of him into foul territory by the Brewers dugout. Lucroy has been smoking a baseball tonight. That gets him right on the foot. One hopper right off the foot, and that'll be a base hit for Lucroy.
And looking at the side of the leg around the shin. And he's going to walk it off a little bit. Maybe going to try to throw a few here. I'm sure he's going to have to convince the medical team that he's all right. They're very cautious with pitchers, and anytime you get hit on the leg or the foot, because if you're trying to change your mechanics to protect those injuries, that can be hard on your arm.
Yeah. That's the last thing an organization wants to see, compensating for it with a bad foot or a leg and then putting undue pressure on the arm. That's when you end up in real trouble.
So he will remain. Jonathan Lucroy on with his 3rd hit of the night. And it's a leadoff single. 3 for 3. Lucroy sets up Ryan Braun. Brewers lead 2-1.
Yeah, Luke's thinking, I get hit like that 3 times a night.
Nobody comes out to check on me.
That's right.
That's true. Braun with a sacrifice fly his last time up. Struck out his first time up. Ryan Braun set a very high standard for numbers in a season, and he's having a good year. That's a liner into right field. Harper will make the catch. Hit it right on the nose, but right at Harper for the first out of the inning.
They had him shaded down the line perfectly, so the Nationals know that Ryan likes to use that right field line, and Harper standing right there waiting for it.
Here's Adam Lind. Lind drew a walk his last time up. Worked into a deep count and drew the walk against the left-handed starter. Runner first, 1 away. Fastball right down the heart. Lind wishes he had that one back. That would have been one to pull the trigger.
Yeah, that's the thing. First strike, right? That's what we talked about in the 1st inning. First strike's your best one to hit.
Lind has the most career at-bats against Gio Gonzalez of any of the Brewers. Many coming when these two are in the American League. Gonzalez pitching for the A's. And Lind with the Blue Jays all those years. This is his 13th at bat against him. 4 for 12. Hit hard into left field. Long run for Worth. Looking up. It is off the base of the wall. Lucroy on his way to third, and Adam Lind with a double with one gone in the 5th inning.
Yeah, he finally got able to center on one of those fastballs down the middle of the plate. Boy, Lind had 2 fastballs that were right in his wheelhouse. He fouled them off. Check this one out. Another one right down the middle of the plate. It was supposed to be away, and another fly ball over the head of Jason Worth. He's having a rough night out there. Trying to get back, hits in front of the wall.
Wow.
Yep, and Lucroy able to cruise into third base.
Tell you what, you think a ball like that has a chance to be caught, especially as deep as Worth is playing. Yeah, it's been one of those nights for Jason Worth. Sets up a big opportunity here for the Brewers. 2nd and 3rd. Here's Chris Davis. Matt Williams is going to bring his Nationals infield in. One gone. Brewers lead 2-1. Chance to add to it. Davis is 0 for 2 tonight. Yeah, first pitch strike in there. Fastball. Oh, and 2 the count.
We're 92 up in his zone. Davis is thinking, how did I miss that? But and that's all the other stuff that he has into your head. The change up, the curveball, the 2-seamer. He's thrown a lot of 4-seam fastballs in this inning.
Lind and Lucroy on the bags. Here's an 0-2 pitch. Davis in the air to center. Taylor will make the catch. Lucroy's got to hurry. Taylor's got a good arm. It is up the line. Lucroy scores. And the Brewers have a 3-1 lead. Sac fly, RBI for Chris Davis.
Taylor with a really good throwing arm. He's got 6 assists this year, and that throw sailed on him. Well, John Lucroy's been tested a couple times now in tag-ups. Arm drops a little bit. Throw off the mark. And Jonathan Lucroy scores his 2nd run.
Yeah. All right, so the Brewers lead 3-1 now.
Terry would like to redo that throw for sure.
Here's Domingo Santana in his Brewers debut, and he's gunning at that first pitch. He hasn't been up there long tonight. Haven't had much time to talk about him. Had a first pitch out on a soft liner in the 2nd inning, and then he bounced out on the 2nd pitch of the at-bat in the 4th. 23-year-old outfielder. His first game as a Brewer. He does strike out a lot, but he brings a lot of power.
And a lot of gap power. Right center to left center. Which means when he's feeling comfortable up there at the plate, you got to figure there's going to be a mulligan for him. A lot going on for him tonight.
He is a big man. 6'5", 225. Domingo Santana.
I saw him in the dugout before the game. Yeah, congratulated him and welcomed him to the Brewers. There's not many guys I have to look up and look in the eye, but he's certainly one of them.
Wearing a Ramos Ramirez's old number, 16. Craig Counsell had a comparison to Corey Hart. I was asking him, if there's a player Brewers fans can link up with Domingo Santana, and he thought Corey Hart. He's a corner outfielder, probably a right fielder. Very strong throwing arm. Tall, lanky, good speed, and big power, especially opposite field power.
Well, that was Corey Hart for sure before he got hurt.
Hart is still active. He's with the Pirates on the disabled list right now, but still active in the big leagues. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Yeah, Santana's got a good long at bat going here. Santana played winter ball in Venezuela. His manager was Brewers' first base coach, Mike Gonzalez. Or rather, Mike Guerrero, I beg your pardon. Yeah, Mike had a lot of good things to say about Santana. One of the 4 prospects the Brewers got from the Astros.
And Mike Barrera spent a lot of time in the minor leagues and in winter ball, so he's put in his dues, being a big league coach now.
He's seen 8 pitches in this at bat. The Brewers got Brett Phillips, who was the Astros number 2 prospect. Santana was the Astros number 7. Josh Hader, a left-handed pitcher, who was the Astros minor league pitcher of the year last year. Then a hard-throwing right-hander, Adrian Hauser. The other 3, Phillips, Hader, and Hauser, are all in Double-A Biloxi. Santana, when the trade was made, was thought to be the first to make it to the big leagues because he's been there twice already. And that ball's ripped left field. Is it going to stay fair? It is a fair ball. That is in. No, home run. A home run for Santana. Just made it over the fence. It came back into play. And the third base umpire, DJ Rayburn, had it as a home run. Santana gets on the board with a bang in his first game as a Brewer.
Boy, how quick are those hands on the inside corner? My goodness. Watch this pitch. Inside. Bang. Keeps able to keep it fair. Now goes off of the iron railing out there. That's out of play. That's over the fence.
Yeah, good
Clearly
call.
a home run. Yeah, good call down there at third base by DJ Rayburn. Yeah, the Brewers with some 2-out magic of their own.
It's been a 3-run inning. It is now 5-1. Domingo Santana with his first home run as a Brewer, his 3rd career major league home run. Wow, what a feeling that must be.
Those are some quick hands on the inside corner. My goodness.
That was a 9-pitch at bat. Yeah, go hang out with Ryan Braun when you hit a home run like that.
That was able to lay off some off-speed pitches that were down in the dirt. Fouled off some tough fastballs. Got one that he liked.
Perez takes a strike.
It's one of the hardest home runs we've seen this year. Line drive bullet right down the line.
I love that shot there. That conversation between Braun and Santana. Perez on the ground to short. And that will retire the side. Ryan Braun is the franchise leader for home runs, has 252. This here, number 1 for Domingo Santana. It's a 5-1 lead. Now we head to the bottom of the 5th, and just a reminder, you can tweet us your strongest fan photo. Use hashtag #WishDataStrongFan, and you just might see yourself in an upcoming broadcast. And it's all brought to you by T-Mobile. Under the Friday night lights of Nationals Park, the Brewers swinging the bats well against Gio Gonzalez. 2-run third, 3-run fifth. And now Jimmy Nelson with a 4-run lead to work with. Michael Taylor leads off. And a foul pop into the seats.
Still can't get over how quick those hands are on the inside corner. My goodness. Domingo Santana. Inside corner, four-seam fastball, and turns it around. And it's one thing to barrel it up and hit it hard. It's another thing to be able to keep that ball fair on that inside corner like that.
Wonder how many times he's replaying that home run in his mind. I mean, you get traded to a ball club, that's one thing. You're traded from one minor league team to another minor league team. Then you get the call up just a few weeks later and trying to impress, and boy did he ever. Most players press when they first get called up. Santana, after a couple of quick at bats, his first 2 times up, a 9-pitch at bat, ends up with one of the hardest hit line drive homers we've seen this year.
Yeah, he has had the benefit though of a couple of different call ups last year, a little bit for the Houston Astros, this year too. So not his first exposure to the major leagues.
Interesting here, Rock. Matt Williams has Max Scherzer in the on deck circle.
Short bench.
Had an injury in the first inning to Yunel Escobar. The Nationals are only carrying 4 position players anyway. And so Scherzer, his prized pitcher, is going to get an at bat in a 5-1 game.
And then you got Zimmerman, who's banged up, the other catcher Ramos, and Trey Turner, who's never played a game in the big leagues. Those 3 guys on the bench.
So going to be a 5-inning outing for Gio Gonzalez. That ball's ripped deep into left center field. Going back is Davis. Long way out there, and he's got room to make the catch. Davis covering some ground. Taylor must have just missed it on the bat and gave it a ride into deep left center. And when they say Nationals Park is a pitcher's park, that's what they're talking about.
Yeah, that's a home run in Coors Field, Michael. I'll tell you off the bat, sitting way up here, I thought that was way out of here. I thought that was going to be out of here by plenty in the left center. And Chris Davis never takes his eye off the baseball, knows exactly where he's at, and able to grab it right in the corner out there and in left center. I think Jimmy thought that was a home run too.
Certainly a home run at Miller Park.
That 492 footer he hit yesterday was at Coors Field.
All right, so here is Max Scherzer. Fans getting a charge out of this. Seeing Scherzer bat, a pinch hit appearance. You run a risk when you're in the National League and you have a 4-man bench. A lot of teams are doing it right now. Scherzer, a little soft liner out to first base.
As they feel like they need 8 relievers, everybody seems to be going that way. Hey, back by popular demand, vintage Brewers bobblehead returns to the Crew's all-fan giveaway lineup on Sunday, August 30th. The Brewers take on the Reds, and all fans get an old-school bobblehead featuring the Crew's 1970s uniforms, courtesy of Sendik's Food Markets. Visit Brewers.com for tickets.
2 up, 2 down for Nelson. Top of the order now, and Jason Worth. Worth had a single his last time up. That was a fly ball to right, but that was at the twilight time of the evening. Braun lost it. Worth, not hustling, ends up stuck at first base. Then he tried to steal second base and was caught stealing. Oh, 0-2 to Worth. And on the ground to second base, Herrera will make the play. Jimmy Nelson all-important shutdown inning after the Brewers got him 3 in the top half. 5-1 Brew Crew. Coming up, and a reminder that Saturday, tomorrow, MLB returns to Fox Sports 1, another doubleheader. Giants, Pirates, and then the Rangers and the Tigers. So 2:30 airtime for the first game. Second game will get underway at 6 o'clock Central. That is on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. And starter turn reliever Doug Fister in the game now.
Well, you figure he's going to be able to go a while. He's made 15 starts for the Nats this year, 445 earned run average. You see his numbers against right-handed batters, not very good, over 350.
Elian Herrera, a little soft liner that will fall in left field, a base hit. And the hits keep coming for the Brew Crew. Herrera on for the second time, a walk and a single. That'll bring up Jimmy Nelson. Will give him a chance to bunt. Nelson with a 1-2-3 inning in the 5th inning after the Brewers scored 3 runs on 3 hits in the top of the 5th, and gets the bunt down. It's a good one. Sacrifice for Nelson gets Herrera into scoring position.
Back-to-back poor starts for Gio Gonzalez. He got hit around pretty good against the Giants his last time out. 2 2/3, 6 runs. Gave up 5 runs tonight. Just another example, underperforming this Nationals ball club. They just can't seem to put it together.
They got big names in a lot of areas. If the Brewers hang on to win here tonight, the Nationals go under 500. You got a guy like Doug Fister coming out of the bullpen. You know you're deep in your rotation as Segura grounds to second. 2 outs. Herrera does advance to third base. But 2 men are out for Fister, a ground ball specialist who won 16 games last year. Career high in wins. And a 2.41 ERA in 25 starts for the Nationals last season. But he got hurt and spent some time on the disabled list. At 25 starts, missed about 9 starts when it's all said and done last season. Had some terrific years with the Tigers. Joe Ross in that rotation. Part of that trade with the Pirates, or rather the Padres. Just doesn't make sense why the Nationals are where they are in the standings.
Yeah. They can use injuries as an excuse early in the season. If they go under 500 tonight, it'd be the first time that the Nationals been under 500 since May 6th.
I think Nationals fans are trying to figure out what's going on here. Matt Williams certainly is. Lucroy on the ground to short. Desmond will wind it up, and that will retire the side. Pfister with a scoreless inning in the 6th. We head to the home 6th. Brewers rewind. A couple of run scoring innings for the Brewers started in the 3rd. Jonathan Lucroy with an RBI double to tie the game at 1. And then Ryan Braun, after Lucroy moved to 3rd on a pass ball, able to drive him in with a sac fly. Then Chris Davis. Sacrifice fly in the 5th inning. And Domingo Santana in his first game as a Brewer line drive home run to left field. Gio Gonzalez doesn't give up many homers, but Santana got him. A 3-run 5th inning. Brewers fans enjoying this one so far. It's 5-1, and we're headed to the bottom of the 6th. Jimmy Nelson's only surrendered the 1 run on 3 hits, and will face Anthony Rendon to start the inning. He's 0 for 2 here today. First ball swinging, foul pop in the seats. I don't know if you're the Brewers, you get a little charge playing a team that's in contention. Brewers know they are not playing for a postseason spot. A double barrel action down there. Knebel and Neil Kotz. And a ground ball to Herrera, nice and easy. Rendon is retired. Back to our Carsoup.com trivia. We're looking at the Expos and Nationals franchise. 2 players in their history to win a batting title. Can you name them? That would be Al Oliver and Tim Raines back in the Expos days.
Yeah, I had Tim Raines. I forgot about Al Oliver.
And Bryce Harper is 2nd in the league in batting average right now, behind Dee Gordon. Got a chance to win a batting title this year. And Harper in the air, right center, way back. Goodbye. Home run. Harper jumping on the first pitch. Makes it 5-2 Brewers. Harper's 31st of the season.
Well, he hits him hard. And he didn't mess around. You remember that 10-pitch at bat where Jimmy Nelson was able to get him last time up. Gave him a 2-seamer, left that one up out over the plate. And Bryce Harper did not miss that pitch. There's a line drive right out of here out into right center.
So 5-2 now. Fourth hit of the game for the Nationals. Here's Espinosa, who has struck out twice in this one. Looked like Jimmy Nelson knew it right out of the gates. Wow, he says. Only question was it going to be high enough to get over the wall?
I think Bryce Harper had the same reaction after the strikeout last time up. That nasty two-seamer that he punched out on that 10-pitch at bat. So I guess both of them, the wow factor for each other tonight.
Nelson surviving a 10-pitch at bat in the fourth on Harper with a strikeout. Harper got him this time. 1-2 to Espinosa. Espinosa entered the game in the first inning. Yunel Escobar was injured chasing a foul ball in the first off the bat of Adam Lind. Had to leave with a neck injury. Collided with a fan. Looked pretty harmless, but in replay you could tell it was just an awkward collision.
Okay, he snapped his neck back a little bit. There's the fan in the middle. He's all right.
1-2 pitch. Misses inside. 2-2. Nationals got a run in the second. Lobaton with a 2-out RBI single. And then Harper just homered. 5-2 Brewers. Brewers just got 3 in the fifth inning.
And the reason the Brewers have that activity out in that bullpen is that pitch count right now. That was just number 100 for Jimmy. A lot of pitches. The Nationals have been working the count a little bit. Some high pitch at bats. Might be his last inning.
Well, you're hoping to get him through 6 if you're Craig Counsell, but not at the expense of another run. Might be his last hitter if he does not retire Espinosa. We'll see. Now it's 3-2. Very warm night here in DC. Nelson has 4 strikeouts thus far. The 2 walks he's issued have both come with 2 outs. Full count to Espinosa. And a liner to right field, base hit. Braun able to cut it off. Espinosa will hold at first. Good play by Braun. But a line drive single, and now decision time for Craig Counsell.
Well, 2 of the next 3 hitters. Well, you got Robinson coming up, then Desmond, then a switch hitter. And I think that the pitch count has gotten the better of Jimmy Nelson here tonight.
And a call to the bullpen has Nelson frustrated. So out he goes. And Counsell will get into his bullpen here with a 3-run lead. We'll take a break. Long at bats, but a good effort tonight for Nelson. He's got a chance to win this game. Will exit with a runner on base. That is his responsibility. And the new hurler is going to be Neil Kotz. Got a left-hander coming up, and Clint Robinson with one out.
Yeah, last 33 games, Kotz has been pretty good. 6 earned runs in 33 and a third innings over those 33 games. That's a 1.62 ERA. Overall, a 3.28. Kotz last pitched on Tuesday against Miami. An inning and a third scoreless.
Ryan Zimmerman's going to pinch hit. So Matt Williams will play matchup here in the 6th inning, and that's going to leave his bench with just 2 players. Maybe Williams is sensing this is the moment right here.
Maybe. And realizing how good the Brewers bullpen is, he's going to use his chips right now.
He's already had an injury. So Zimmerman in the game leaves only Trey Turner, who would be making his major league debut, and Wilson Ramos, the other catcher, available. Still a lot of game to be played yet. Big spot for Neil Kotz. Zimmerman is the everyday first baseman now with Washington. Moved over there from third base. Remember, they had Adam LaRoche playing an exceptional first base for a few years here in D.C. Zimmerman's had a tough year. Low batting average at .225, but he has 20 doubles this year and 9 homers.
He's also grounded into 12 double plays. That's the statistic that Neil Kotz is thinking about right now. Get your ground ball.
2 balls and a strike. Oh, while the Nationals trail the Brewers here tonight, the Mets have just taken a bigger lead against the Rockies. Cespedes has homered. It's now 7-1 Mets. There goes the runner. And the pitch is inside. No throw by Lucroy. Stolen base for Espinoza.
Stole that one on Kotz. No chance for Lucroy.
It's an interesting note on Nationals base stealers. Until Worth was thrown out in the 3rd inning, they had 16 consecutive stolen bases. Worth got caught stealing, and now Espinoza with the 2nd bag of the night for the Nats. Very high percentage stealing bases for this Washington team.
Yeah, good percentage, but they really don't run a whole lot. That's the thing. We got 50 stolen bases on the year. They pick their spots.
Zimmerman's been dealing with a sore heel, and Matt Williams being very cautious with his first baseman. 1 man out. 3-2 pitch is in there. A called strike 3. Zimmerman has rung up Neil Kotz with his first strikeout, first batter faced, and it's out number 2.
Well, caught him looking on the inside corner. That's a good pitch by Kotz, and Joe West gives him the benefit of the doubt. You figured that Zimmerman was looking away for something out there, maybe fastball. Caught him looking on the inside corner.
And it'll be a 1 and done for Neil Kotz. Got a right-hander Desmond coming up with pop. Counsell back to the bullpen here in the 6th inning. We'll take a timeout. 6th inning as Nelson exits. It'll be Corey Knebel next. And as promised earlier in the game, we have selected the Data Strong fan photo of the game. It comes from Jerry. Good job, Jerry. It's all brought to you by T-Mobile. Don't forget to use the hashtag #WisDataStrongFan.
Well, Corey Knebel on for the 34th time. He's got Ian Desmond, and then the switch hitter Lobatone. A .328 earned run average for Corey Knebel. 40 strikeouts for Corey in 35 2/3 innings. Last pitch on Wednesday against the Marlins back in Miller Park.
Oh, high leverage moment for Corey Knebel. Getting a chance here in the 6th inning. 2 outs. You got a home run hitter coming up in Ian Desmond. That runner at second base, Espinoza, belongs to Jimmy Nelson, who goes 5 1/3 tonight. High pitch count for Nelson. Jimmy only gave up 5 hits, 2 runs at this point. Harper homered earlier in this inning to make it 5-2, and Knebel misses with a curveball, his first offering.
Yeah, Knebel probably going to get the innings that Michael Blazek was getting. Blazek is on the disabled list. Fractured bone in his hand, and Knebel getting an opportunity to eat up these innings.
The Brewers are carrying 7 relievers now, 5 bench players. Counsell checking that card with his bench coach, Jerry Narron. There's Blazek with the cast on his right hand. 1 ball, 1 strike. Ian Desmond at the plate. And a fastball misses high. 97 from Knebel. He's got big velocity and he's got a nasty curveball, but he needs them both typically to be successful.
Yeah, because his fastball is pretty straight. A lot on it, but not a lot of movement.
Got a hitter's count for Desmond. That's in there. Strike 2-2.
Yeah, right at the bottom of the strike zone. Desmond didn't like that call at all.
Joe West ringing up Ryan Zimmerman on a borderline pitch. Gets back in the count here on Desmond on a borderline pitch. 2-2 the count. 2 outs in the inning. Espinoza at second. And a curveball's fouled away. That one hung up there.
Yeah, that's why Desmond was able to get a piece of it. Leaving that curveball upstairs so far in this appearance.
Do it again. Another 2-2. See what he has in mind. And a high fastball struck him out. Beautiful sequence there by Corey Knebel. A strikeout to end the inning. The Nationals get only 1. At 22 years of age, the 23-year-old Santana. How about these home runs? Let's take a look here. So Santana's was a line drive, an exit velocity of 111 miles per hour. Now Harper's went into deep right center, 103 miles per hour. So Santana actually hit the ball harder off the bat than Bryce Harper, even though it didn't travel as far. So much on the line gives you an idea of the kind of power that Domingo Santana possesses.
Yeah, that was a rope. I mean, that ball was hit so hard it didn't have time to hook foul. Right down that line, didn't move an inch. Had to hit it that hard. It wasn't hit high enough. Had he not hit it that hard, it would have hit off the wall.
I'd be interested to compare the home run that Michael Taylor hit last night in Colorado, which was the longest home run hit of the year in the big leagues, 493 feet. Wonder what that exit velocity was. So you hit him 111 miles an hour off the bat.
Yeah.
I mean, that's up there among the hardest you can hit a baseball.
Coming in around 92, 93. Going out at 111.
Fister missing inside. Well, we ask, truck delivers. How about that, Rock? So this home run last night at 493 feet, exit velocity of 110.1. Santana hit his harder. Man, that gives great perspective on just how hard Santana hit the baseball. I love the ability StatCast gives us to check exit velocity. And that really does tell you how well a guy, you can gauge how much true power a hitter has. It also tells you, if you collect the data through the year, how many hard hit balls the pitcher is giving up. Well, that's got to light you up if you're a Brewers fan. You found a guy that can hit one 111 miles an hour off the bat. Braun has that kind of power as he draws a walk here in the 7th inning.
Yeah, you can also tell if a guy's hitting about 250 if he's lining into a lot of outs. I mean, how many of those outs were hit really hard? I mean, you can't really do anything about direction. All you can do is hit the baseball. I guess that's another tool that they can evaluate guys at the end of the season, how good of a year they had, without just looking at the batting average.
Yeah, you can look at average exit velocity off the bat. Most players are on average, the big power hitters, the more powerful hitters are in the mid to upper 80-mile-an-hour range. That'll be fun to track Santana throughout the year. It's also nice because when we sit up here and we say, wow, I'm not sure I've seen a ball hit harder this year, but now we have the statistics to back it up. So that's really what analytics does. We don't have to guess anymore. Our eyes tell us that it was one of the hardest hit balls of the year, and now the numbers back it up. And Adam Lind with a line drive to right, a base hit.
How many times have we seen him do that in the last couple of weeks? That pitch was up about his neck. That was about neck high, able to tomahawk it. Check this out. Left-handed hitters ordinarily aren't able to do that. That's a high fastball, able to level on it and hit it hard into right field. That's impressive. You don't see left-handers do that all that often. Normally low ball hitters.
2 hits and a walk tonight for Lind. 2 on against Fister to start the inning for the Brewers here in the 7th. And that'll bring up Chris Davis. Shattered bat, foul ball. If you're wondering, Giancarlo Stanton has the highest recorded exit velocity this year. And that makes perfect sense. 120 miles an hour off the bat is the fastest off the bat that they've been able to measure this season.
Yeah, I'm sure Chris Davis doesn't want to know the exit velocity of that last one. This got jammed.
That's probably about in the 40 range. There's a base hit into left field. Braun had to wait to clear. And the bases are going to be loaded here. So with a new bat, Chris Davis with a base hit. Bases loaded, nobody out. The Brewers threatening here in the 7th.
And so the average exit velocity for Chris Davis in that at bat 20 miles an hour and then about 95.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I like where you're going with that. Domingo Santana, last time up, shining moment of the game, brought to you by Marshfield Clinic. Just tremendous buggy whip and off the back railing for a 2-run home run.
And pulls the hands in and keeps it fair down that left field line. Impressive.
And now he's got the bases loaded. Just can't imagine what kind of relief that must be for a player in his first game with an organization at the big league level anyway.
Yeah, you come up with all these accolades, the guy's got big power, you show it right away. Yeah, watch how patient he's going to be now, right? Now that the pressure's off. He's got that first one out of the way. Good job taking that last slider.
And by the way, that home run came on the 9th pitch of the at bat in the 5th. Got down to 2 strikes, fouled a number of pitches off. 2-1. Bases full of Brewers, nobody out, and a hitter's count for Santana. That's in there. Strike 2.
Yeah, it's been a strike all night, that low strike. That pitch around the knees.
And he misses. Full count now to Santana. Well, nowhere to put him. Fister's got to throw him a strike. He's a ground ball pitcher. Santana on the 3-2 and a swing and a miss. Put one in on his hands and down he goes on strikes.
And 2-seamer off the plate. 1 to strike. And first time he swung the bat in that at bat. Swings it one out of the zone.
Counsell is going to make a move here. Scooter Gennett will pinch hit for Hernan Perez. Likes the matchup better with Gennett and Fister.
And it makes it easier for Craig Counsell knowing that there's not a left-hander down in that pen loosening up. Yeah, just a right-hander.
Bases loaded. Now 1 man out. And a sinker in there for a strike. How about we take you back? Steven Strasburg on the mound, Miller Park. This was a first for Scooter Gennett, his first career grand slam last season against the Nats. He'd love a repeat performance. He's got him loaded here with 1 out.
Scooter's had that very good left field stroke going, and I would imagine that's what he's going to have to do because Fister's been throwing that 2-seamer, that sinker away. Let's see where they go here on a 0-2 count. Nice block. That's a tough block right there of a pitch way in front of home plate on a curveball.
Fister in for Gio Gonzalez, who in 5 innings, giving up 5 runs, 4 earned. His second inning now. He loaded the bases with nobody out. Now he's got 1 out. Gennett trying to do damage. Brewers lead 5-2. Gennett fouls it away, an emergency hack.
Yeah, started the bat, then tried to get out of the way and could not. Would have been a swing had he not hit it.
And you're at home and you're wondering, how do you swing at a pitch like that? But you think about Fister, that's a high slider. He's got that sinking fastball that you have to be wary of. That comeback sinker that tails down into the strike zone against the left-handed hitter. Got to get something out of this. Jeanette fouls it away. One ball, 2 strikes on Jeanette. It's hanging tough.
And Fischer's left that sinker up in the strike zone, giving Scooter a chance to get a piece of it. Keeping it on the outer part of the plate.
Scooter Jeanette pinch hitting for Hernan Perez. Inside, he missed 2-2 now on Jeanette. This would certainly be a morale punch for the Nationals if the Brewers can strike here. After getting just 1 last inning. 8th pitch of the at-bat coming, and Jeanette fouls another one off.
Well, how many high pitch at bats have we seen tonight? There had to be 7 or 8 of them. I mean, 8, 9, 10 pitches. A lot of foul balls, a lot of deep counts.
Jeanette's fouled off 4 pitches in this at bat. And pitch number 9 coming from Pfister. Jeanette back up the middle. It's off the glove of Pfister. This will get 1 run in. Everybody's safe. And the Brewers add to their lead. It is now 6-2. Jeanette with an infield hit and an RBI. That had a chance to be an inning-ending double play.
It probably would have been. Check it out. That would have probably been an easy double play for Espinosa all by himself, but Pfister knocks it down. They don't get anybody, and Ryan Braun, who walked to start the inning, able to score.
Hey, you can't fault Pfister. It's just instincts. He's just reacting there. And we are going to have a double switch and a pitching change for Matt Williams. The Brewers 6-2 lead, still bases loaded with 1 out. We'll take a break. The Nationals' top prospects has arrived. He's in the game on a double switch. Trey Turner, he is their number 2 rated prospect. Shortstop, you see his numbers down in AAA. He came to the Nationals from the Padres in a 3-way deal. And here he is in the big leagues. New pitcher rock is Tanner Roark out of the Washington bullpen.
And he's made 6 starts. He's got a 4-4 record, 33 appearances, most of which have come out of the bullpen, and earned run average over 4.5. Well, he comes into a buzzsaw. Bases loaded, only 1 out.
Well, the Brewers had Jeanette at the plate. That'll go as an infield hit and an RBI for Scooter. But it was inches away from turning into possibly a 1-4-3 double play, or maybe just a regular 4-3 double play. Bases loaded, 1 out. Here is Herrera, and a base hit to right. Coming in to score is Adam Lind as the Brewers go station to station. 7-2 Milwaukee. Herrera with his second hit. On base for the 3rd time tonight, and the Brewers are pouring it on here in the 7th.
They have 4 hits in the inning. Well, the bottom of the order able to get it done. Scooter off the bench. Now Herrera with his second hit. He's been on 3 times. Picking on the first pitch from Tanner Roark. Bangs it into right field. Now Ned Cedar holds him up at third base, not wanting to test the arm of Bryce Harper.
Here's Shane Peterson. Peterson pinch hitting in the 9th spot of the order. Kotzen Knebel able to get through the 6th inning as Craig Counsell goes to his bullpen early. And now the Brewers able to stretch it out. Peterson is the 7th hitter of the inning. Still 1 out, still bases loaded, 2 runs are in. 4 hits and a walk in this inning. Peterson's been excellent off the bench this year for the Brewers. 2-2 now.
Yeah, good 2-seam fastball. Roark with the fastball gets it up around 95 when he's good and loose. Slider change and a curveball. Everything away to Shane Peterson in this at bat.
Peterson as a pinch hitter is 7 for 20. Has 3 runs batted in. 2-2. Back out there. Peterson fouls it away. Roark certainly has a game plan on Shane Peterson he's sticking with. Everything is away. Hardly anything in the strike zone yet. Ready for a 2-2. And Peterson goes the other way. That'll slice foul in the seats. I'll tell you tonight, Rock, the Brewers offense are putting up some terrific at-bats, especially with 2 strikes.
Yeah, making them work, aren't they?
Long at-bats. Getting themselves deep in counts. Jeanette on the 9th pitch had that RBI. Remember the 2-run home run by Domingo Santana was on the 9th pitch of the at-bat. Pitch number 7 here to Peterson. He spoils another one.
Seems like both teams have had a lot of at-bats that have gone into the 7, 8, 9 pitches. Not too many first pitch swings tonight.
Still just 1 away. And did he hit the glove? I think he did. That'll be catcher's interference.
Not only did he hit the glove, he knocked it right off his hand.
Man, how bad can it get for the Washington Nationals?
That'll be an E2. No at bat for Shane Peterson. He reaches for it, knocks the glove right off his hand, and well, you don't hardly ever see that with a left-handed hitter up.
That's just a late swing, an emergency swing to foul a pitch off, and knocks the glove right off of Lobaton. Another run is in. It's now 8-2 Milwaukee. And here is Segura back to the top of the order now. I mean, if you're a Nationals fan at this moment, you're just wondering what's next for this team.
It's just been bad defense. really bad defense early in the game. I mean, the defense let him down in the third inning. A couple of plays that should have been made that weren't. He was playing relatively uninspired tonight for sure. Maybe you can understand it. They got in at 6 o'clock in the morning. Just one of those games.
Now, usually, though, and like you've said it many times, it's usually that second day that gets you on the fatigue factor.
Yeah, so you can only imagine what's going to happen tomorrow.
Well, we'll see. Give credit to the Brewers, though. They've come out. They've swung the bats well. 13 hits tonight. Segura in the air to right. Harper will line it up. This is going to be close here. Harper makes a catch and going to try to score. Is Genetti's in there? No problem. Throw gets away. Here comes Herrera, and he will score. Boy, heads up base running by Elian Herrera. And the Brewers tack 2 more on. That'll be a sac fly and an RBI for Segura. And another run coming in on an error.
Well, the Brewers look like the team that are in a pennant race tonight. And what a bad throw by Harper. I think it might have short hopped or in between hopped his catcher. Lobaton not able to get a piece of it. It was kind of an in-between hop, and that ball hits that brick wall out there, starts carrying all over the place, and Herrera with some good base heads up base running, able to score. Nobody covering home plate. Sacrifice, scoring the run in an E9.
Error on Harper. Here's Lucroy.
Second error in as many hitters.
Wow. 5 runs are in. 10-2 Milwaukee. That's not a bad throw by Harper. At the very least, as a catcher, you have to keep that ball in front.
Got to knock it down. You're right.
Ground ball right to first. And that will end the inning. What an inning for the Brewers. Disaster of an inning for the Nationals. Milwaukee with 5 in the 7th to lead 10-2. We head to the home half now. And a reminder, there is another student night coming up at Miller Park next Friday against the Reds. All high school and college students can purchase $10 Terrace Reserved or $15 Lowe's bleacher tickets, plus enjoy a special $3 pregame menu. For details, visit brewers.com/students. Going to be heading back to school shortly. Many are headed back next week. Well, that 5-run inning, Rock, has changed the game plan for Craig Counsell. Instead of his late inning relief, he gets to go to Kyle Lohse now and see if Lohse can maybe finish this one off here tonight.
Yeah, 5th appearance out of the bullpen for Lohse. He's got that .611 earned run average, and last pitched on Monday against the Miami Marlins, gave up a run on 2 hits and 2 innings of work.
Brewers making some changes defensively. Counsell tightens up his D with Logan Schaefer coming in to play center field. And there is a strike. Schaefer bumps Santana to left field. So I'm sure he's more comfortable over there in the corner. Davis is out. And Scooter Gennett remains in the game at second base after his infield hit and an RBI. Lobaton takes one off the plate. 2-2 the count.
Yeah, so the Brewers have Jason Rogers and Maldonado still on the bench. Nationals have 1.
Lobaton strikes out. Loesch gets a punch out to start his night. 1 out in the 7th inning.
And look, I took a little off the 2-seam fastball to get him. That'd be nice for the Brewers and Kyle Loesch to be able to finish this one off. Pitch the last 3 innings. Finish this off. Pitch 3 innings. Get a save. How many saves does Loesch have?
Got to go to the record book. How many 3-inning saves? Maybe. Yeah, he's hardly been a relief pitcher. It's been about 5 years since his last relief outing, and then that was just sparingly with the Cardinals. Really hasn't been a reliever since his days with the Twins. Great opportunity for him here to get some work. He's actually been pitching fairly well out of the bullpen.
Yes, he has.
I think there are some expectations that Loesch, we're running out of days here in August, but he can still be traded to a contending team if you've cleared waivers. And I don't know this for a fact, but I'm certain Loesch has at this point. But we just saw a trade with Marlon Byrd from the Reds to the Giants. You can still make trades like that. You have to be with the organization, though, by September 1st to be postseason eligible. So I'm sure a lot of teams are keeping an eye on Loesch. Starters going down this time of year. And you have a guy that you can insert right back in there. Loesch has not had a good year, but I'm sure there would be some teams expecting or gambling on a finishing kick by Loesch. He's a pro. He keeps himself in great shape, and he's not injured in any way. Had a finger problem, a middle finger injury. It's like a just tightness in the ligament in his middle finger. And it doesn't sound like much, but it did not allow him to throw his changeup. He holds his changeup between his middle finger and his ring finger. It's very unusual grip. As Taylor hits that one a mile, that is way back. And a home run for Michael Taylor. Gives him something to cheer about here at Nationals Park. That's his 12th of the year. Back-to-back nights with a homer for Taylor. And that makes it 10-3.
Not too many cheap home runs for Michael Taylor. Boy, he packs a punch in that bat. He nearly hit one out of here in the 4th inning. Check that, the 5th inning. Took Chris Davis deep out into left center, and on a 3-2 fastball, Loesch didn't want to walk him, gave one down the middle, and that's a bomb out of here.
Here is the first major league at bat for Trey Turner. Highly touted shortstop prospect. This kid can fly. There's a scout system that it's called an 80 scale. So the fastest runner you can be is 80, and he's an 80 runner. You got to hurry it. Segura throw, and in time, barely. They might take a look at this one. Turner was flying down the line. They don't have replay in the minor league, so he's assuming he's out, but I think they're calling him over. They might check this one. Ooh, that was close.
Yeah, I don't know if there's enough to overturn it. Why not? Has anybody ever got their first major league hit on a overturned replay.
And that's bang, bang. I'm not sure there's enough evidence there, but
We'll see.
The real story is how fast it got down the line.
And Segura got rid of it quickly. And that's that could go either way. I mean, is there enough to overturn it?
Yeah, that is booking. Oh, man. Yeah, they're showing the replay on the big screen here. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that shows
They're
anything.
cheering as if it's clearly safe, but I don't see it that way.
Yeah,
I think
right.
it's going to be close. Joe West is the crew chief. He's over there with the calling umpire, Clint Fagan.
Not sure there's enough to overturn it, but we have been surprised before.
And the chance goes safe. Trey Turner's like, hey, I'm liking this replay business. I got a chance at a hit here. They don't have replay in the minor leagues. I thought Segura hurried his throw over well. I mean, he didn't sit back on it.
No, he didn't.
It wasn't like a.
Did what he could.
He's done his homework on Turner.
He did what he could. I mean, he got rid of it quickly. Got off a good throw. Didn't bobble it. Young man could just pick him up and set him down. He's fast.
Joe West patiently waiting. It's just, I don't know. I mean, we've looked at all these angles. It's impossible to clearly define. We'll see the call here. He's out. And I would imagine the language on this will be the call stands, which means not enough evidence to overturn. So Turner's first major league at bat is a 6-3 ground out.
He didn't want his first hit to be that anyway. We had a little dribbler in the shortstop that was overturned on a replay.
That is eye-popping speed, though, right there.
He can run. Yeah.
I mean, you think about when the scout defines a base runner, and he's an 80 runner. I mean, you're talking Deion Sanders and Otis Nixon.
Billy Hamilton.
Billy Hamilton, right. Some of the fastest runners in the history of the game. That's where they've got Turner with his speed. And in fact, the language coming from the replay challenge center is that the call stands, so not enough to overturn that. And 2 men are out in the inning. 0-2 is the count to Worth. I think Jason Worth's been the symbol of the Nationals' play tonight. He's misplayed a couple in the outfield. He had a fly ball to right, normally a routine out, but he wasn't running at all, and he ended up only with a single, and then he was caught stealing later in that inning. That ball's hit pretty well deep into center field. Schaefer on the run will run it down. Logan Schaefer with a good catch. And the inning is over for Loesch. Nats get one. It's 10-3 Brewers. After a 5-run 7th, up 7 now, and our Miller Lite, what's on tap? Joe Ross against Taylor Youngman tomorrow. A couple of young hurlers. 5:30 airtime in the Central Time Zone on Fox Sports Wisconsin. Youngman has been fantastic in his first year in the big leagues. And that'll be tomorrow night. Tanner Roark back on the mound. Ryan Braun will lead off. First ball swinging. Slow roller third base. Rendon can't make the play, and Braun will reach to start the inning.
Yeah, second time that Rendon has gotten one off the end of his glove and not able to hold on to it. Not a very impressive performance by this Nationals team tonight.
See how they score that one. Would have been a tough play, no question. Braun runs well. So a man on to start the inning. And here is Adam Lind. So that was a heck of a catch by Logan Schaefer.
Yeah, it was.
To rob Worth of extra bases.
Got a great jump on it. The only true center fielder the Brewers have at this point. I'm not sure if Santana makes that catch out in center field.
A defensive move by Counsell pays off. They're going to score that as an error, by the way, on Braun. E5. Adam Lind's had a good night at the plate. 2 hits and a walk. Scored twice. And a double in the 5th inning. Singled in the 7th. He's got his batting average on the move. He came in batting .284. 2 out of 3 here tonight. Hitting .287 now.
And no question that Adam Lind is a pure hitter. He's a pro. He can hit. He's got a good approach at the plate. Provides some pretty good insurance behind Ryan Braun in that batting order. Pick your poison, right?
Brewers have an option on Lynn for next season. Can't imagine they wouldn't pick it up at this point. He's had a healthy year and put up good numbers. He's not a plus first baseman. He's not bad. He doesn't move well. He doesn't have great range, but if he hits like this,
doesn't matter.
You can give up, a few ground balls in the hole. But he's made some good plays this year.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not like a plus defender by any stretch. But
he's got 3 errors this year. That's it.
He usually makes what he can get to. How about that?
Yeah.
Ground ball to second base. Espinosa. And out at first for a double play. So it goes 4-6-3. Trey Turner gets his first double play chance in the big leagues. And a good strong arm to get the out. 2 outs, 1 swing of the bat for the Nationals. That'll bring up Logan Schaefer. First at bat for him. After a terrific catch on Jason Worth last inning. Schaefer coming in with 11 hits on the season, was with the Brewers early in the season, then sent down, just called back up right after the trade deadline. That one's got some spin on it and coming back fair. That is just foul That ball was spinning towards the base. That would have ended up as a fair ball if Rendon had not picked that up before it hit the line. Well, that one had some English on it. Schaefer knew it too. He was busting it down the line.
You see the reaction of Rendon. He said, "You got to be kidding me. That ball was going to be a fair ball had it not got there."
Rendon was originally in the game at second base. First inning injury to Yunel Escobar moved him over to third. 1 ball, 2 strikes on Schaefer. And a foul pop in the seats. Emergency hack. Boy, Roark, he's got velocity, movement.
Yeah, 95, not too bad with the kind of movement that he has. He's a 4-pitch pitcher basically, but we've seen a lot of 2-seamers. Likes to work hitters away. We saw that with Shane Peterson tonight. Doesn't mess around too much with the inner half of the plate, particularly with the fastball.
Roark is a Big Ten man. He went to the University of Illinois. Won 15 games as a starter last year. The signing of Max Scherzer sent him to the bullpen this season. There's a breaking ball missing low.
They got 2 starters in their bullpen.
How about you go 15-10 with a 2.85 ERA? That is a great year. And then you say, you know what, we're going to sign Max Scherzer. You go to the bullpen. Wow. Tough league. Embarrassment of riches, but it hasn't worked well for the Nationals. Slow roller to second. Espinoza will make the play, and that'll be the inning. Scoreless inning for Roark in the 8th. We go to the bottom of the 8th. Nationals coming up. Brewers lead 10-3. All right, Jeff, thanks. Good memory there. Nice note. First ball swinging is Rendon, and Lynn can't make the play. Yeah, Bob Carpenter, he's a long time big league play-by-play man, a long time with the Rangers and the Cardinals. Had nearly 2 decades with ESPN, as a matter of fact, and now he's the Nationals play-by-play. And he's a good man. He's also the author of the famous Bob Carpenter scorebook
that you used to use.
I used that scorebook for 15 years.
Now what do you use?
I just use a piece of paper now. As Rendon flies out to Schaefer.
The official scorecard that they pass out in the press room.
That's it.
That's good.
Rock, we got an update here. How about a game break? You're going to be interested in this. We take you to Houston. You might recognize that pitching style. That is Mike Fiers. And a couple of strikeouts through his effort tonight. It is noteworthy tonight because Mike Fiers is through 7 no-hit innings against the first place Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah.
How about Fiers getting a start for Houston, making it work, and Domingo Santana, who is involved in the Fiers-Gomez deal with Houston, has homered for the Brewers. We'll keep an eye on that one for you.
Good for everybody, right? Good for Mike Fiers.
Gerardo Parras hit a 3-run home run tonight for the Orioles, by the way. Speaking of traded Brewers. He's having a good run for Baltimore. So it's good. You want to see the former Brewers, the guys that were involved in trades, you want to see them have success. Every general manager will tell you that.
As long as it's not against you.
Right. Aramis Ramirez had an RBI single for the Pirates tonight. Pirates playing the Giants. That game's in the 9th inning. Giants lead 6-4. And the Brewers were able to turn in a lot of prospects to help rebuild their minor league system, and we're seeing the first of that wave in the big leagues tonight in Domingo Santana, who's hit a 2-run homer.
And then it's going to be up to Craig Counsell to navigate the Brewers ship through all this. Can't be easy on him. I think he knew it was coming when he took the job. Good start for him tonight.
One note about Mike Fiers, he has 107 pitches through 7 innings. Not sure if he's going to be allowed to remain in the game as Harper draws the walk. Well, you can vote for your MVP and help us decide which Fox Sports supports partner will be crowned the winner. The charity with the most votes at the end of this Brewers season will score big with a donation from Hupy and Abraham. Choose from American Heart Association of Wisconsin, Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Milwaukee, or Fisher House, Wisconsin. To vote, visit foxsportswisconsin.com/supports. Loesch, wanting no part of Bryce Harper, will now face Danny Espinosa with a runner at first and 1 out. Loesch's 2nd inning out of the bullpen. And there's a good changeup for a swinging strike.
Yeah, that's the pitch he was really struggling with when he was making starts from Milwaukee. Just couldn't find it. You were talking about it, you know, the injury to his finger, and just couldn't get the feel for it. It's been much better since he's been in the bullpen. Another one.
Yeah, an 0-2 the count.
Kyle thinking to himself out there, where's that pitch been all year?
It's a game changer for him.
It is. The 2-seamer really didn't, have much sink to it this year. The changeup wasn't there for him. It was a struggle from the beginning.
Loesch in the final year of his contract, 3-year deal with the Brewers, had 2 very good years for Milwaukee. This one has not gone well, but I tell you, he's got his stuff back as he picks up a strikeout.
3 changeups.
2nd out of the inning. Loesch with his 2nd strikeout. Two gone for Ryan Zimmerman. Matt Williams made the play with Zimmerman in the 6th inning. In a 5-2 game, he pinch hit with Zimmerman, and he struck out with a runner at 2nd.
And Neil Cott's got him on the 3-2 pitch.
Cotts and Knebel were the 2 that got through the 6th. Jimmy Nelson started, went 5 1/3. 5 hits, 2 runs, both earned. Had a couple of walks and 4 strikeouts. And those 2 relievers were able to get through that 6th inning. And then the Brewers scored 5 runs in the 7th, which allowed Counsell to go to Loesch. And nobody warming in the bullpen. I'm sure unless Loesch gets into some serious trouble here, he would be allowed to try to finish this game, which would be a save, by the way. 3 innings to finish a game. Three and 0 to Zimmerman. And that's ball 4. Walked him on 4 straight. 2 walks here in the 8th. And Matt Williams is going to use his last player on the bench. He's also used Max Scherzer as a pinch hitter tonight. Here's Wilson Ramos. I was just checking Loesch's career, major leagues and minor leagues. He's never had a save as a professional pitcher, minor league baseball or major league baseball. 2 men out. Here's Ramos, and a fly ball to right. Braun is there, and that will do it. Loesch with a scoreless 8th. Wonder if Counsell will give him a chance at a save. We'll find out. To the 9th we go. 10-3 Brewers. Is brought to you by Potawatomi Hotel and Casino. Book your stay now. What kind of moon we got there, Rock? Is that a half moon?
Yeah, that's a crescent moon.
Oh, okay.
I haven't checked the gibbuses yet. You want me to look into it?
Is it are we moving towards waning or waxing gibbous?
I think we're moving toward a full moon.
All right.
I got to check.
Now we look forward to that.
I'm checking out. Hold on.
We'll just wait. To the 9th inning we go, and the Brewers are up 10-3. Felipe Rivero is on the mound, 28th appearance of the season, and Rivero is in relief of Roark. He's the 4th pitcher used by Matt Williams tonight. Gio Gonzalez started on the hook for the loss. Doug Fister at an inning plus, and then Tanner Roark. It's going to be Domingo Santana to bat to start the 9th inning. 1 out of 4, had a big home run for the Brewers in the 5th. We have seen 3 home runs in this game, and Santana's was the shortest distance. but had the highest exit velocity. By the way, they just made an announcement here. The batted ball by Ryan Braun in the 8th inning, that has been changed to a hit. Okay. Take an error away. That gives the Brewers one more hit, which gives them 14 tonight.
Ryan will take it.
So Braun is 1 out of 3 with an RBI, sac fly, and a walk tonight.
Yeah, bottom line, though, there have been a lot of batted balls by the Brewers that have been scored hits or that have been hits that probably should have been caught by the Nationals tonight. There's very poor defense by Washington all night long. And really not what you would expect out of a team that's looking to get to the postseason.
Yeah, they're going to drop under 500 with a loss tonight. Meanwhile, the team they are chasing, the New York Mets, have an 8-4 lead in the 4th inning in Colorado. They got one of those wild Rockies games, Coors Field games going. Cespedes has homered for the Mets in that one, as has Lucas Duda. I beg your pardon, only Cespedes. Carlos Gonzalez, Paulson, and Arenado have all homered for Colorado. Santana with his 3rd career Major League homer. First as a Brewer, back in the 5th inning.
You know, we're looking at a waxing gibbous tonight.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, we got a full moon coming up.
It's good work.
About a week.
What do you go to moon.com to find that out? Or?
Waxinggibbous.com.
I didn't know waxing had its own website.
Everything does.
Who gets
that.
more hits, waxing or winging? Here's the 8th pitch of the at bat and a liner foul. Waxing Gibbous is big on the web, but waning Gibbous is big on the
waxing gibbous is on its way to a full moon. Waning gibbous is from a full moon to the other way.
It's waning into nothingness.
Right.
I get it.
Get it?
It's a good lesson. In the air to left field. Going back on it, Worth. He's got it for the out. Good battle there for Santana. On the 9th pitch, he lines out for the first out of the night. Cubs won again today. They beat the Braves in the only afternoon game, 5-3. Cubs winning at Wrigley. And that was a comeback win for Chicago. They were down 3-1. Won at 5-3. Chris Coughlin homered in that game. Cubs are right there in the picture. They're inside the wild card spot right now, the number 2 wild card spot. St. Louis has a 4.5 game lead over the Pirates, 8.5 over the Cubs. Cubs have a chance to pick up a game on the Pirates if that score in Pittsburgh hangs on.
Cardinals just can't shake the Pirates, can they?
They cannot.
They're hanging right in there.
St. Louis is in San Diego tonight, scoreless in the first. West Coast trip for the Cardinals. That's what it looks like right now in the wild card race. Pittsburgh +3 after the Cubs win. Giants are 4 back of the 2nd spot. Top 2 teams make it. A wave and a miss. Jeanette strikes out, secured at first for the 2nd out of the inning. And we're on a no-hitter watch still. Mike Fiers still pitching for Houston. has 1 out in the 8th inning. No hits allowed, facing the Dodgers at Minute Maid Park. And a ton of pitches. 113 pitches with 1 out. And he just got his 2nd out. So he's 4 outs away from a no-hitter against a very good hitting team, the Dodgers.
Yeah, right. Must have that good curveball working. That's a pitch that Fiers had a difficult time with this year with the Brewers.
Good for Fiers. He has a chance to pitch in a pennant race, chance to make it to the postseason with Houston. Carlos Gomez has really struggled with the Astros. Actually came up to the media today acknowledging that, talking about his struggles, and you hope Carlos doesn't put too much pressure on himself and can have a finishing kick with the Astros. He's a dynamic player.
They figure he's going to turn it around at some point over there. Too good a player.
Elian Herrera batting with 2 outs. We're in the 9th here in D.C. 10-3 our score. Brewers have had 3 scoring innings. 2 in the 3rd, 3 in the 5th, 5 in the 7th. Brewers have had a lot of long at-bats in this game, grind them out battles throughout the night. A little flare and foul territory to end the inning. To the bottom of the 9th, last call for the Nationals. Brewers trying to seal up win number 1 in this series. Opportunity for Kyle Loesch. He's pitching in his 3rd inning now. Came in a 10-2 ball game. Loesch did give up a home run to Michael Taylor in the 7th through a scoreless 8th, and Rocky will have a chance at his very first save as a professional pitcher.
Yeah, this would be a nice shot in the arm for not only Kyle Loesch to be able to finish this one off, but this Brewers bullpen. You don't have to use your winning scenario relievers like, Will Smith, Jeremy Jefferson, K-Rod. Just what he needed to extend himself a little bit, get that pitch count up somewhat, and tonight is the night where he's able to do it.
First man up is Lobaton, and he fouls one away. So Kyle Loesch has 563 career games as a professional pitcher. 444 in the big leagues, 119 in the minor leagues with the Twins organization. Has never had a save at any level as a pro. This is his 445th big league game, and he's got a chance to do something he's never done.
And I imagine this is not the way he would have wanted to get it. But he gets 3 outs. He does get 1.
And a swing and a miss. Lobaton strikes out a changeup from Loesch. Well, he's got that changeup back.
Yeah, look at this. This is where the changeup is most effective, down and away to that left-handed hitter. Lobaton, a strikeout victim twice to Kyle Loesch tonight.
Yeah, Loesch has 3. No hitter watch continues. Mike Fiers is through 8 complete innings against the Los Angeles Dodgers with a no-hitter. 120 pitches through 8 innings. Got to send him out now, don't you?
Oh yeah.
Remember Edwin Jackson had a no-hitter, 149 pitches.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I mean, you can't take him out now with a no-hitter. Come on.
Give him an extra day off. What a story.
Extra bag of ice tonight in that training room.
No balls, 2 strikes on Taylor. Took Loesch deep his last time up.
3-2 fastball. I would imagine Loesch wants to stay away from that pitch. Fastball to this guy.
I think Taylor's put himself in the ring for Rookie of the Year. And down he goes. A slider got him. Back-to-back strikeouts for Loesch, finishing with a flurry here in the 9th inning.
Yeah, put a little wrinkle in it, and then Taylor's going to have a bit of a problem with it. And he got that breaking ball off the outside corner.
Strike in there to Trey Turner. His second big league at bat, making his debut tonight. Just promoted from AAA. And a little cue shot. Jeanette will make the play, and that's a ball game. The Brewers win, and Kyle Loesch with a 3-inning save. Big home run in the Brewers' debut of Domingo Santana tonight. A 2-run shot in the 5th. And all smiles as the Brewers win on Craig Counsell's birthday. Loesch with his first career save, 564 career games as a pro. Way to go there, Kyle. 3 hours, 25 minutes the time of the game. The Brewers win the opener against the Washington Nationals. Time for Brewers Live. Let's get you caught up. Send you to Jeff Grayson in our Fox Sports Wisconsin studio.